I'm back. How we doing? And by I'm back, I mean good morning, good afternoon. Welcome back to book club, guys. How we doing? But welcome back, guys, to episode 2 of book club. I'm really excited. Last time we read chapters 1 through 10. And now we have chapters 11 through 22. If my throat starts to hurt halfway through and it becomes unbearable, I will split it into two. But I think we should be able to finish the book as long as you are patient with me and we can bear through it. But I'm excited. How is everyone doing today? Oh, some tea. And I got my water bottle. I will probably have to grab some more water at some point because I'm sure I will be needing to refresh my throat. But yeah, how are we doing? So chapters 1 to 11, we meet Percy Jackson. Anyways, yeah, so we're at chapter 11. I hope that was a somewhat good summary. Let's get going, shall we? Chapter 11. We visit the Garden Gnome Emporium. In a way, it's nice to know that there are Greek gods out there, because you have someone to blame when things go wrong. For instance, when you're walking away from a bus that's just been attacked by monster hags and blown up by lightning, it's raining on top of everything else. Most people think that's just really bad luck. When you're a half-blood, you understand that some divine force really is trying to mess up your day. So there we were, Annabeth and Grover and I, walking through the woods along the New Jersey riverbank, the glow of New York City making the night sky yellow behind us, and the smell of the Hudson reeking in our noses. Grover was shivering and braying, his big goat eyes turned slit-pupiled and full of terror. 3 kindly ones, all 3 at once. I was pretty much in shock myself. The explosion of bus window still rang in my ears, but Annabeth kept pulling us along, saying, "Come on, the farther away we get, the better." All our money was back there, I reminded her. Our food and clothes, everything. Well, maybe if you hadn't decided to jump into the fight. What did you want me to do? Let you get killed? You didn't need to protect me, Percy. I would have been fine. Sliced like sandwich bread, Grover put in, but fine. Shut up, goat boy, said Annabeth. Grover brayed mournfully. Tin cans. A perfectly good bag of tin cans. We sloshed across mushy ground through nasty twisted trees that smelled like sour laundry. After a few minutes, Annabeth fell into line next to me. Look, her voice faltered. I appreciate you're coming back for us, okay? That was really brave. We're a team, right? She was silent for a few more steps. It's just that if you died, aside from the fact that it would really suck for you, it would mean the quest was over. This may be my only chance to see the real world. The thunderstorm had finally let up. The city glow faded behind us, leaving us in almost total darkness. I couldn't see anything of Annabeth except a glint of her blonde hair. You haven't left Camp Half-Blood since you were 7? I asked her. No, only short field trips. My dad, the history professor. Yeah, it didn't work out for me living at home. I mean, Camp Half-Blood is my home. She was rushing her words out now, as if she were afraid someone might try to stop her. At camp, you train and train. And that's all cool and everything, but the real world is where the monsters are. That's where you learn whether you're any good or not. If I didn't know any better, I could have sworn I heard doubt in her voice. You're pretty good with that knife, I said. You think so? Anyone who can piggyback ride a fury is okay by me. I couldn't really see, but I thought she might have smiled. You know, she said, maybe I should tell you. Something funny back on the bus. Whatever she wanted to say was interrupted by a shrill toot toot toot, like the sound of an owl being tortured. Hey, my reed pipes still work, Grover cried. If I could just remember a fine path song, we could get out of these woods. He puffed out a few notes, but the tune still sounded suspiciously like Hilary Duff. Instead of finding a path, I immediately slammed into a tree and got a nice-sized knot on my head. Add that to the list of superpowers I did not have: infrared vision. After tripping and cursing and generally feeling miserable for another mile or so, I started to see light up ahead, the colors of a neon sign. I could smell food. Fried, greasy, excellent food. I realized I hadn't eaten anything unhealthy since I'd arrived at Half Blood Hill, where we lived on grapes, bread, cheese, and extra lean cut nymph prepared barbecue. This boy needed a double cheeseburger. We kept walking until I saw a deserted 2-lane road to the trees. On the other side was a closed down gas station, a tattered billboard for a 1990s movie, and one open business, which was the source of the neon light and the good smell. It wasn't a fast food restaurant like I'd hoped. It was one of those weird roadside curio shops that sells lawn flamingos and wooden Indians and cement grizzly bears and stuff like that. The main building was a long, low warehouse surrounded by acres of statuary. The neon sign above the gate was impossible for me to read because if there's anything worse for my dyslexia than regular English, it's red cursive neon English. And to me, it looked like Atnu Mess. I can't even read that. To me, it looked like It's a whole bunch of gibberish, pretty much. Atnu Mes Gduran Gamen Meprum. What the heck does that say? I asked. I don't know, Annabeth said. She loved reading so much, I'd forgotten she was dyslexic too. Grover translated. Antiem's Garden Gnome Emporium. Flanking the entrance, as advertised, were 2 cement garden gnomes, ugly bearded little runts, smiling and waving as if they were about to get their picture taken. I crossed the street following the smell of hamburgers. Hey, Grover warned. The lights are on inside, Annabeth said. Maybe it's open. Snack bar, I said wistfully. Snack bar, she agreed. Are you too crazy? Grover said. This place is weird. We ignored him. The front lot was a forest of statues, cement animals, cement children, even a cement satyr playing the pipes, which gave Grover the creeps. Bah! He bleated. Looks like my Uncle Ferdinand. We stopped at the warehouse door. Don't knock, Grover pleaded. I smell monsters. Your nose is clogged up from the Furies, Annabeth told him. All I smell is burgers. Aren't you hungry? Meat, he said scornfully. I'm a vegetarian. You eat cheese enchiladas and aluminum cans, I reminded him. Those are vegetables. Come on, let's leave. These statues are looking at me. Then the door creaked open, and standing in front of us was a tall Middle Eastern woman. At least I assumed she was Middle Eastern, because she wore a long black gown that covered everything but her hands, and her head was completely veiled. Her eyes glinted behind a curtain of black gauze, but that was about all I could make out. Her coffee-colored hands looked old, but well manicured and elegant, so I imagined she was a grandmother who had once been a very beautiful lady. Her accent sounded vaguely Middle Eastern, too. She said, Children, is it too late to be out all alone? Where are your parents? They're, Annabeth started to say. We're orphans, I said. Orphans, the woman said. The word sounded alien in her mouth. But, my dears, surely not. We got separated from our caravan, I said. Our circus caravan. The ringmaster told us to meet him at the gas station if we got lost, but he may have forgotten, or maybe he meant a different gas station. Anyways, we're lost. Is that food I smell? Oh, my dears, the woman said, you must come in, poor children. I am Auntie M. Go straight through to the back of the warehouse, please. There is a dining area. We thanked her and went in. Annabeth muttered to me, Circus caravan? Always have a strategy, right? Your head is full of kelp. The warehouse was filled with more statues, people in all different poses wearing all different outfits and different expressions on their faces. I was thinking you'd have to have a pretty huge garden to fit even one of these statues because they were all life-size, but mostly I was thinking about food. Go ahead, call me an idiot for walking to a strange lady shop like that just because I was hungry, but I do impulsive stuff sometimes. Plus, you've never smelled Auntie M's burgers. The aroma was like laughing gas in the dentist's chair. It made everything else go away. I barely noticed Grover's nervous whimpers, or the way the statue's eyes seemed to follow me, or the fact that Auntie M had locked the door behind us. All I cared about was finding the dining area, and sure enough, there it was, at the back of the warehouse, a fast food counter with a grill, a soda fountain, a pretzel heater, and a nacho cheese dispenser. Everything you could want. Plus a few steel picnic tables out front. Please, sit down, Auntie M said. Awesome, I said. Um, Grover said reluctantly. We don't have any money, ma'am. But before I could jab him in the ribs, Auntie Em said, No, no, children, no money. This is a special case, yes? It is my treat for such nice orphans. Thank you, ma'am, Annabeth said. Auntie Em stiffened as if Annabeth had done something wrong, but then the old woman relaxed just as quickly, so I figured it must have been my imagination. Quite all right, Annabeth, she said. You have such beautiful gray eyes, child. Only later did I wonder how she knew Annabeth's name, even though we had never introduced ourselves. Our hostess disappeared behind the snack counter and started cooking. Before we knew it, she'd brought us plastic trays heaped with double cheeseburgers, vanilla shakes, and extra large servings of French fries. I was halfway through my burger before I remembered to breathe. Annabeth slurped her shake. Grover picked at the fries and eyed the tray's wax paper liner as if he might go for that too, but he still looked too nervous to eat. What's that hissing noise? He asked. I listened, but didn't hear anything. Annabeth shook her head. Hissing, Auntie Em said. Perhaps you hear the deep fryer oil. You have keen ears, Grover. I take vitamins for my ears. That's admirable, she said, but please, relax. Auntie Em ate nothing. She hadn't taken off her headdress even to cook, and now she sat forward and interlaced her fingers and watched us eat. It was a little unsettling, having someone stare at me when I couldn't see her face, but I felt satisfied after the burger and a little sleepy, and I figured the least I could do was try to make small talk with our hostess. So, you sell gnomes, I said, trying to sound interested. Oh, yes, Auntie Em said, and animals, and people. Anything for the garden. Custom orders. Statuary is very popular, you know. A lot of business on this road? Not so much, no. Since the highway was built, most cars, they do not go this way now. I must cherish every customer I get. My neck tingled as if someone else was looking at me. I turned, but it was just a statue of a young girl holding an Easter basket. The detail was incredible, much better than you see in most garden statues, but something was wrong with her face. It looked as if she was startled, or even terrified. Ah, Auntie Em said sadly, you notice some of my creations do not turn out well. They are marred. They do not sell. The face is the hardest to get right. Always the face. Do you make these statues yourself? I asked. Oh, yes. Once upon a time, I had 2 sisters to help me in the business, but they have passed on, and Auntie Em is alone. I have only my statues, which is why I make them, you see. They are my company. The sadness in her voice sounded so deep and so real I couldn't help feeling sorry for her. Annabeth had stopped eating. She sat forward and said, 2 sisters? It's a terrible story, Auntie Em said. Not one for children, really. You see, Annabeth, a bad woman was jealous of me, long ago when I was young. I had a boyfriend, you know, and this bad woman was determined to break us apart. She caused a terrible accident. My sisters stayed by me. They shared my bad fortune as long as they could, but eventually they passed on. They faded away. I alone have survived, but at a price. Such a price. I wasn't sure what she meant, but I felt bad for her. My eyelids kept getting heavier, my full stomach making me sleepy. Poor old lady. Who would want to hurt anyone so nice? Percy? Annabeth was shaking me to get my attention. Maybe we should go. I mean, the ringmaster will be waiting. She sounded tense. I wasn't sure why. Grover was eating the wax paper off the tray now, but if Auntie Em found that strange, she didn't say anything. Such beautiful gray eyes, Auntie Em told Annabeth again. My, yes, it has been a long time since I've seen gray eyes like those. She reached out as if to stroke Annabeth's cheek, but Annabeth stood up abruptly. We really should go. Yes, Grover, swallowed his wax paper and stood up. The ringmaster is waiting. Right. I didn't want to leave. I felt full and content. Auntie Em was so nice, I wanted to stay with her for a while. Please, dears, Auntie Em pleaded. I so rarely get to be with children. Before you go, won't you at least sit for a picture? A picture? Annabeth asked wearily. A photograph. I will use it to model a new statue. Oh, sorry. I will use it to model a new statue set. Children are so popular, you see. Everyone loves children. Annabeth shifted her weight from foot to foot. I don't think we can, ma'am. Come on, Percy. Sure we can, I said. I was irritated with Annabeth for being so bossy, so rude to an old lady who just fed us for free. It's just a photo, Annabeth. What's the harm? Yes, Annabeth, the woman purred. No harm. I could tell Annabeth didn't like it, but she allowed Auntie Em to lead us back out the front door into the garden of statues. Auntie Em directed us to a park bench near the stone satyr. Now, she said, I'll just position you correctly. The young girl in the middle, I think, and the two gentlemen on the sides. Not much light for a photo, I remarked. Oh, enough, Auntie Em said. Enough for us to see each other, yes? Where's your camera? Grover asked. Auntie Em stepped back as if to admire the shot. Now the face is the most difficult. Can you smile for me, please, everyone? A large smile? Grover glanced at the cement satyr next to him and mumbled, That sure does look like Uncle Ferdinand. Grover, Auntie Em chastised. Look this way, dear. She still had no camera in her hands. Percy, Annabeth said. Some instinct warned me to listen to Annabeth, but I was fighting the sleepy feeling, the comfortable lull that came from the food and the old lady's voice. I will just be a moment, Auntie Em said. You know, I can't see you very well in this cursed veil. Percy, something's wrong, Annabeth insisted. Wrong, Auntie Em said, reaching up to undo the wrap around her head. Not at all, dear. I have such noble company tonight. What could be wrong? That is Uncle Ferdinand, Grover gasped. Look away from her, Annabeth shouted. She whipped her Yankees cap onto her head and vanished. Her invisible hands pushed me and Grover off the bench. I was on the ground, looking at Auntie Em's sandaled feet. I could hear Grover scrambling off in one direction, Annabeth in another, but I was too dazed to move. I heard a strange rasping sound above me. My eyes rose to Auntie Em's hands, which had turned gnarled and warty, with sharp bronze talons for fingernails. I almost looked higher, but somewhere off to my left, Annabeth screamed, No, don't! More rasping, the sound of tiny snakes right above me, from where about Auntie Em's head would be. Run! Grover bleated. I heard him racing across the gravel, yelling, Maya! To kickstart his flying sneakers. I couldn't move. I stared at Auntie Em's gnarled claws and tried to fight the groggy trance the old woman had put me in. Such a pity to destroy a handsome young face, she told me soothingly. Stay with me, Percy. All you have to do is look up. I fought the urge to obey. Instead, I looked to one side and saw one of those glass spheres people put in gardens, a gazing ball. I could see Auntie Em's dark reflection in the orange glass. Her headdress was gone, revealing her face as a shimmering pale circle. Her hair was moving, writhing like serpents. Auntie Em. Auntie Em. How could I be so stupid? Think, I told myself. How did Medusa die in the myth? But I couldn't think. Something told me that in the myth, Medusa had been asleep when she was attacked by my namesake Perseus. She wasn't anywhere near asleep now. If she wanted to, she could take those talons right now and rake open my face. The gray-eyed one did this to me, Percy, Medusa said, and she didn't sound anything like a monster. Her voice invited me to look up, to sympathize with the poor old grandmother. Annabeth's mother, the cursed Athena, turned me from a beautiful woman into this. Don't listen to her, Annabeth's voice shouted, somewhere in the statuary. Run, Percy! Silence, Medusa snarled. Then her voice modulated back to a comforting purr. You see why I must destroy the girl, Percy. She is my enemy's daughter. I shall crush her statue to dust, but you, dear Percy, need not suffer. No, I muttered. I tried to make my legs move. Do you really want to help the gods? Medusa asked. Do you understand what awaits you on this foolish quest, Percy? What will happen when you reach the underworld? Do not be a pawn of the Olympians, my dear. You would be better off as a statue. Less pain, less pain. Percy! Behind me, I heard a buzzing sound, like a 200-pound hummingbird in a nosedive. Grover yelled, Duck! I turned, and there he was in the night sky, flying in from 12 o'clock with his winged shoes fluttering, Grover, holding a tree branch the size of a baseball bat. His eyes were shut tight, his head twitching from side to side. He was navigating by ears and nose alone. Duck! He yelled again. I'll get her! That finally jolted me into action. Knowing Grover, I was sure he'd miss Medusa and nail me. I dove to one side. Thwack! At first I figured it was the sound of Grover hitting a tree. Then Medusa roared with rage. You miserable satyr, she snarled. I'll add you to my collection. That was for Uncle Ferdinand, Grover yelled back. I scrambled away and hid in the statuary while Grover swooped for another pass. Kerwhack! Ah! Medusa yelled, her snake hair hissing and spitting. Right next to me, Annabeth's voice said, Percy! I jumped so high my feet nearly cleared a garden gnome. Jeez, don't do that. Annabeth took off her Yankee cap and became visible. You have to cut her head off. What? Are you crazy? Let's get out of here. Medusa's a menace. She's evil. I'd kill her myself, but... Annabeth swallowed as if she were about to make a difficult admission. But you've got the better weapon. Besides, I'd never get close to her. She'd slice me into bits because of my mother. You've got a chance. What? I can't... Look, do you want her turning more innocent people into statues? She pointed to a pair of statue lovers, a man and a woman with their arms around each other, turned to stone by the monster. Annabeth grabbed a green gazing ball from a nearby pedestal. A polished shield would be better. She studied the sphere critically. The convexity will cause some distortion. The reflection size should be off by a factor of... Would you speak English? I am! She tossed me the glass ball. Just look at her in the glass. Never look at her directly. Hey, guys! Grover yelled from somewhere above us. I think she's unconscious. Roar! Maybe not, Grover corrected. He went in for another pass with the tree branch. Hurry, Annabeth told me. Grover's got a great nose, but he'll eventually crash. I took my pen and uncapped it, the bronze blade of riptide elongated in my hand. I followed the hissing and spitting sounds of Medusa's hair. I kept my eyes locked on the gazing ball so I would only glimpse Medusa's reflection, not the real thing. Then, in the green-tinted glass, I saw her. Grover was coming in for another turn at bat, but this time he flew a little too low. Medusa grabbed a stick and pulled him off course. He tumbled through the air and crashed into the arms of a stone grizzly bear with a painful oomph. Medusa was about to lunge at him when I yelled, Hey! I advanced on her, which wasn't easy, holding a sword and a glass ball. If she charged, I'd have a hard time defending myself. But she let me approach. 20 feet, 10 feet. I could see the reflection of her face now. Surely it wasn't really that ugly. The green swirls of the gazing ball must be distorting it, making it look worse. You wouldn't harm an old woman, Percy, she crooned. I know you wouldn't. I hesitated, fascinated by the fact I saw reflected in the glass, the eyes that seemed to burn straight through the green tint, making my arms go weak. From the cement grizzly, Grover moaned, Percy, don't listen to her. Medusa cackled. Too late. She lunged at me with her talons. I slashed up with my sword, hearing a sickening schlock, then a hiss like wind rushing out of a cavern, the sound of a monster disintegrating. Something fell to the ground near my foot. It took all my willpower not to look. I could feel warm ooze soaking into my sock, little dying snakeheads tugging at my shoelaces. Oh, yuck, Grover said. His eyes were still tightly closed, but I guess he could hear the thing gargling and steaming. Mega yuck. Annabeth came up next to me, her eyes fixed on the sky. She was holding Medusa's black veil. She said, Don't move. Very, very carefully, without looking down, she knelt and draped the monster's head in black cloth, then picked it up. It was still dripping green juice. You okay? She asked me, her voice trembling. Yeah, I decided, though I felt like throwing up my double cheeseburger. Why didn't the head evaporate? Once you sever it, it becomes a spoil of war, she said. Same as your minotaur horn. But don't unwrap the head. It can still petrify you. Grover moaned as he climbed down from the grizzly statue. He had a big welt on his forehead. His green Rasta cap hung from one of his little goat horns, and his fake feet had been knocked off his hooves. The magic sneakers were flying aimlessly around his head. The Red Baron, I said. Good job, man. He managed a bashful grin. That was really not fun, though. Well, the hitting her with the stick part, that was fun. But crashing into a concrete bear, not fun. He snatched his shoes out of the air. I recapped my sword. Together, the three of us stumbled back to the warehouse. We found some old plastic grocery bags behind the snack counter and double-wrapped Medusa's head. We plopped it on the table where we'd eaten dinner and sat around it, too exhausted to speak. Finally, I said, So we have Athena to thank for this monster? Annabeth flashed me an irritated look. Your dad, actually. Don't you remember? Medusa was Poseidon's girlfriend. They decided to meet in my mother's temple. That's why Athena turned her into a monster. Medusa and her two sisters who had helped her get into the temple. They became the three Gorgons. That's why Medusa wanted to slice me up, but she wanted to preserve you as a nice statue. She's still sweet on your dad. You probably reminded her of him. My face was burning. Oh, so now it's my fault we met Medusa. Annabeth straightened. In a bad imitation of my voice, she said, "It's just a photo, Annabeth. What's the harm?" "Forget it," I said. "You're impossible. You're insufferable. You're—" "Hey," Grover interrupted. "You two are giving me a migraine, and satyrs don't even get migraines. What are we going to do with the head?" I stared at the thing. One little snake was hanging out of the hole in the plastic. The words printed on the side of the bag said, "We appreciate your business." I was angry. Not just with Annabeth or her mom, but with all the gods for this whole quest, for getting us blown off the road and in two major fights the very first day out from camp. At this rate, we'd never make it to LA alive, much less before the summer solstice. What had Medusa said? "Do not be a pawn of the Olympians, my dear. You would be better off as a statue." I got up. "I'll be back." "Percy," Annabeth called after me. "What are you—" I searched the back of the warehouse until I found Medusa's office. Her account book showed her 6 most recent sales, all shipments to the underworld to decorate Hades and Persephone's garden. According to one freight bill, the underworld's billing address was DOA Recording Studios, West Hollywood, California. I folded up the bill and stuffed it in my pocket. In the cash register, I found $20, a few golden drachma, and some packing slips for Hermes Overnight Express, each with a little leather bag attached for coins. I rummaged around the rest of the office until I found the right-sized box. I went back to the picnic table, packed up Medusa's head, and filled out a delivery slip. The gods. Mount Olympus, 600th floor, Empire State Building, New York, New York. Best wishes, Percy Jackson. "They're not gonna like that," Grover warned. "They think you're impertinent." I poured some golden drachmas in the pouch. As soon as I closed it, there was a sound like a cash register. The package floated off the table and disappeared with the... "I am impertinent," I said. I looked at Annabeth, daring her to criticize. She didn't. She seemed resigned to the fact that I had a major talent for taking off the gods. "Come on," she muttered. "We need a new plan." That's chapter 11. I love that this part of Percy Jackson in the movie, he defeats Medusa with reflection, with her reflection in an iPod or something like that. That's really funny to me. That's probably one of my favorite parts of the first half of this book. I do remember a few things, but I think this is one of my favorite fights from this franchise, at least in the first book. I think it's just so iconic for his first monster outside of camp, other than the Furies, is gosh darn Medusa. That's crazy, dude. Also, for Poseidon to be, I don't know, having a girlfriend, taking them into, I'm gonna say your sibling's temple to get messy, that's crazy, dude. I think Athena was valid. I think Athena was valid on this one. There are a few other ones where maybe she was not valid, but we'll have to see. Bro tried to get away with the sneaky link, or else she was taken against her will. Yeah, that's the thing too, is I feel like some of these stories are being told to their kids differently than they actually were, you know? So yeah, it's so interesting to read the actual myths and stuff after this. Okay, let's go and get started with chapter 12. Okay, chapter 12. We get advice from a poodle. We were pretty miserable that night. We camped out in the woods. Also, I'm sorry, it's thundering again. It's not raining though. I don't know if you guys can hear the thunder or not. But yeah, it's thundering again, so I apologize. Hopefully it just adds a little bit more to the ambiance and doesn't cut the stream off. Yay. Anyways. Okay. Okay, we were pretty miserable that night. We camped out in the woods, 100 yards from the main road, in a marshy clearing that the local kids had obviously been using for parties. The ground was littered with flattened soda cans and fast food wrappers. We'd taken some food and blankets from Auntie M's, but we didn't dare light a fire to dry our damp clothes. The Furies and Medusa had provided enough excitement for one day. We didn't want to attract anything else. We decided to sleep in shifts. I volunteered to take the first watch. Annabeth curled up on the blankets and was snoring as soon as her head hit the ground. Grover fluttered with his flying shoes to the lowest bough of a tree, put his back to the trunk, and stared at the night sky. Go ahead and sleep, I told him. I'll wake you if there's trouble. He nodded, but still didn't close his eyes. It makes me sad, Percy. What does? The fact that you signed up for this stupid quest? No, this makes me sad. He pointed at all the garbage on the ground. In the sky. You can't even see the stars. They've polluted the sky. This is a terrible time to be a satyr. Oh yeah, I'd guess you'd be an environmentalist. He glared at me. Only a human wouldn't be. Your species is clogging up the world so fast. Never mind. It's useless to lecture a human. At the rate things are going, I'll never find Pan. Pam? Like the cooking spray? Pan! He cried indignantly. Pan. The great god Pan. What do you think I want a searcher's license for? A strange breeze rustled through the clearing, temporarily overpowering the stink of trash and muck. It brought the smell of berries and wildflowers and clean rainwater, things that might have once been in these woods. Suddenly, I was nostalgic for something I'd never known. Tell me about the search, I said. Grover looked at me cautiously as if he were afraid I was just making fun. The god of wild places disappeared 2,000 years ago, he told me. A sailor off the coast of Ephesus heard a mysterious voice crying out over the shore. Tell them that the great god Pan has died. When humans heard the news, they believed it. They've been pillaging Pan's kingdom ever since. But for the satyrs, Pan was our lord and master. He protected us in the wild places of the earth. We refused to believe that he died. In every generation, the bravest satyrs pledged their lives to finding Pan. They searched the earth, exploring all the wildest places, hoping to find where he is hidden and wake him from his sleep. And you want to be a searcher? It's my life's dream, he said. My father was a searcher, and my Uncle Ferdinand, the statue you saw back there. Oh, right. Sorry. Grover shook his head. Uncle Ferdinand knew the risks, and so did my dad. But I'll succeed. I'll be the first searcher to return alive. Hang on. The first? Grover took his reed pipes out of his pocket. No searcher has ever come back. Once they set out, they disappear. They're never seen alive again. Not once in 2,000 years? No. And your dad? You have no idea what happened to him? None. But you still want to go, I said, amazed. I mean, you really think you'll be the one to find Pan? I have to believe that, Percy. Every searcher does. It's the only thing that keeps us from despair when we look at what humans have done to the world. I have to believe Pan can still be awakened. I stared at the orange haze of the sky and tried to understand how Grover could pursue a dream that seemed so hopeless. Then again, was I any better? How are we going to get into the underworld? I asked him. I mean, what chances do we have against a god? I don't know, he admitted. But back at Medusa's, when you were searching her office, Annabeth was telling me, oh, I forgot, Annabeth will have a plan all figured out. Don't be so hard on her, Percy. She's had a tough life, but she's a good person. After all, she forgave me. His voice faltered. What do you mean? I said. Forgave you for what? Suddenly, Grover seemed very interested in playing notes on his pipes. Wait a minute, I said. Your first keeper job was 5 years ago. Annabeth has been at camp 5 years. She wasn't... I mean, your first assignment that went wrong. I can't talk about it, Grover said, and his quivering lower lip suggested he'd start crying if I pressed him. But as I was saying, back at Medusa's, Annabeth and I agreed there's something strange going on with this quest. Something isn't what it seems. Well, duh, I'm getting blamed for stealing a thunderbolt that Hades took. That's not what I mean, Grover said. The fur. The kindly ones that were sort of holding back, like Mrs. Dodds at Yancey Academy. Why did she wait so long to try to kill you? Then on the bus, they just weren't as aggressive as they could have been. They seemed plenty aggressive to me. Grover shook his head. They were screeching at us. Where is it? Where? Asking about me, I said. Maybe. But Annabeth and I, we both got the feeling they weren't talking about a person. They said, where is it? They seemed to be asking about an object. That doesn't make sense. I know. But if we've misunderstood something about this quest, and we only have 9 days to find the Master Bolt, he looked at me like he was hoping for answers, but I didn't have any. I thought about what Medusa had said. I was being used by the gods. What lay ahead of me was worse than petrification. I haven't been straight with you, I told Grover. I don't care about the Master Bolt. I agreed to go to the underworld so I could bring back my mother. Grover blew a soft note on his pipes. I know that, Percy. But are you sure that's the only reason? I'm not doing it to help my father. He doesn't care about me. I don't care about him. Grover gazed down from his tree branch. Look, Percy, I'm not as smart as Annabeth. I'm not as brave as you. But I'm pretty good at reading emotions. You're glad your dad is alive. You feel good that he's claimed you, and part of you wants to make him proud. That's why you mailed Medusa's head to Olympus. You wanted him to notice what you've done. Yeah? Well, maybe satyr emotions work differently than humans' emotions. Because you're wrong. I don't care what he thinks. Grover pulled his feet up onto the branch. Okay, Percy. Whatever. Besides, I haven't done anything worth bragging about. We barely got out of New York and we're stuck here with no money and no way west. Grover looked at the night sky like he was thinking about that problem. How about I take first watch, huh? You get some sleep. I wanted to protest, but he started to play Mozart, soft and sweet, and I turned away, my eyes stinging. After a few bars of Piano Concerto No. 12, I was asleep. In my dreams, I stood in a dark cavern before a gaping pit. Grey mist creatures churned all around me, whispering rags of smoke that I somehow knew were the spirits of the dead. They tugged at my clothes, trying to pull me back, but I felt compelled to walk forward to the very edge of the chasm. Looking down made me dizzy. The pit yawned so wide and was so completely black, I knew it must be bottomless. Yet I had a feeling that something was trying to rise from the abyss, something huge and evil. The little hero, the amused voice echoed far in the darkness. Too weak, too young, but perhaps you will do. The voice felt ancient, cold and heavy. It wrapped around me like sheets of lead. They have misled you, boy, it said. Barter with me. I will give you what you want. A shimmering image hovered over the void. My mother, frozen at the time she dissolved in a shower of gold. Her face was distorted with pain, as if the Minotaur was still squeezing her neck. Her eyes looked directly at me, pleading, Go. I tried to cry out, but my voice wouldn't work. Cold laughter echoed from the chasm. An invisible force pulled me forward. It would drag me into the pit unless I stood firm. Help me rise, boy. The voice became hungrier. Bring me the bolt. Strike a blow against the treacherous gods. The spirits of the dead whispered around me. No, wake. The image of my mother began to fade. The thing in the pit tightened its unseen grip around me. I realized it wasn't interested in pulling me in. It was interested... What? I realized it wasn't interested in pulling me in. It was using me to pull itself out. Good, it murmured. Good. Wake, the dead whispered. Wake! Someone was shaking me. My eyes opened and it was daylight. Well, Annabeth said, the zombie lives. I was trembling from the dream. I could still feel the grip of the chasm monster around my chest. How long was I asleep? Long enough for me to cook breakfast. Annabeth tossed me a bag of nacho-flavored corn chips from Auntie M's snack bar, and Grover went exploring. Look, he found a friend. My eyes had trouble focusing. Grover was sitting cross-legged on a blanket with something fuzzy in his lap. A dirty, unnaturally pink stuffed animal. No, it wasn't a stuffed animal. It was a pink poodle. The poodle yapped at me suspiciously. Grover said, No, he's not. I blinked. Are you talking to that thing? The poodle growled. This thing, Grover warned, is our ticket west. Be nice to him. You can talk to animals? Grover ignored the question. Percy, meet Gladiola. Gladiola, Percy. I stared at Annabeth, figuring she'd crack up at this practical joke they were playing on me, but she looked deadly serious. I'm not saying hello to a pink poodle, I said. Forget it. Percy, Annabeth said. I said hello to the poodle. You say hello to the poodle." The poodle growled. I said hello to the poodle. Grover explained that he'd come across Gladiola in the woods and they struck up a conversation. The poodle had run away from a rich local family who posted a $200 reward for his return. Gladiola didn't really want to go back to his family, but he was willing to if it meant helping Grover. "How does Gladiola know about the reward?" I asked. "He read the sign," Grover said. "Duh." "Of course," I said. "Silly me." "So we turn in Gladiola," Annabeth explained in her best strategy voice. "We get money and we buy tickets to Los Angeles. Simple." I thought about my dream, the whispering voices of the dead, the thing in the chasm, and my mother's face, shimmering as it dissolved into gold. All that might be waiting for me in the West. "Not another bus," I said warily. "No," Annabeth agreed. She pointed downhill towards train tracks I hadn't been able to see last night in the dark. "There's an Amtrak station half a mile that way. According to Gladiola, the westbound train leaves at noon." And that's chapter 12. Ooh, okay, so we have a poodle. I guess we're gonna turn in the poodle in for some money. We're gonna try to push forward. Who knows what that voice in the the voice in the chasm keeps reappearing to Percy, so it's a little concerning. We'll see what Percy does, because he doesn't seem to trust it, but it keeps calling out to him. So, I hope he tells, because he hasn't told anyone about these dreams. I don't think anyone has told him that dreams are powerful in this world, because I think they are powerful. Pretty sure they are. Okay, we're at chapter 13. I plunged to my death. Okay. We spent 2 days on the Amtrak train, heading west through hills, over rivers, past amber waves of grain. We weren't attacked once, but I didn't relax. I felt that we were traveling around in a display case, being watched from above and maybe from below, that something was waiting for the right opportunity. I tried to keep a low profile because my name and picture were splattered over the front pages of several East Coast newspapers. The Trenton Register News showed a photo taken by a tourist as I got off the Greyhound bus. I had a wild look in my eyes. My sword was a metallic blur in my hands. It might have been a baseball bat or a lacrosse stick. The picture's caption read, "12-year-old Percy Jackson, wanted for questioning in the Long Island disappearance of his mother 2 weeks ago," is shown here fleeing the bus where he accosted several elderly female passengers. The bus exploded on an East New Jersey roadside shortly after Jackson fled the scene. Based on eyewitnesses' accounts, police believe the boy may be traveling with 2 teenage accomplices. His stepfather, Gabo Gliano, has offered a cash reward for information leading to his capture. "Don't worry," Annabeth told me. "Mortal police could never find us." But she didn't sound so sure. The rest of the day, I spent alternately pacing the length of the train because I had had a really hard time sitting still or looking out the windows. Once, I spotted a family of centaurs galloping across a wheat field, bows at the ready, as they hunted lunch. The little boy centaur, who was the size of a second grader on a pony, caught my eye and waved. I looked around at the passenger car, but no one else had noticed. The adult riders all had their faces buried in laptop computers or magazines. Another time, towards evening, I saw something huge moving through the woods. I could have sworn it was a lion, except that lions don't live wild in America, and this thing was the size of a Hummer. Its fur glinted gold in the evening light. Then it leapt through the trees and was gone. Our reward money for returning Gladiola the poodle had only been enough to purchase tickets as far as Denver. We couldn't get berths in the sleeper car, so we dozed in our seats. My neck got stiff. I tried not to drool in my sleep since Annabeth was sitting right next to me. Grover kept snoring and bleating and waking me up. Once he shuffled around and his fake foot fell off. Annabeth and I had to stick it back on before any of the other passengers noticed. "So," Annabeth asked me once we'd gotten Grover's sneaker readjusted, "who wants your help? What do you mean?" "When you were asleep just now, you mumbled, 'I won't help you.' Who were you dreaming about?" I was reluctant to say anything, but it was the second time I dreamed about the evil voice from the pit. But it bothered me so much I finally told her. Annabeth was quiet for a long time. "That doesn't sound like Hades. He always appeared on a black throne, and he never laughs. He offered my mother in trade. Who else could do that? I guess if he meant help me rise from the underworld, If he wants war with the Olympians, but why ask you to bring him the Master Build if he already has it? I shook my head, wishing I knew the answer. I thought about what Grover had told me, that the Furies in the bus seemed to have been looking for something. Where is it? Where? Maybe Grover sensed my emotions. He snorted in his sleep, muttering something about vegetables, and turned his head. Annabeth readjusted his cap so it covered his horn. Percy, you can't barter with Hades. You know that, right? He's deceitful, heartless, and greedy. I don't care if his kindly ones weren't as aggressive this time. This time? I asked. You mean you've run into them before? Her hand crept up to her necklace. She fingered a glazed white bead with the image of a pine tree, one of her clay end of summer tokens. Let's just say I've got no love for the Lord of the Dead. You can't be tempted to make a deal for your mom. What would you do if it was your dad? That's easy, she said. I'd leave him to rot. You're not serious. Annabeth's gray eyes fixed on me. She wore the same expression she'd worn in the woods at camp, the moment she drew her sword against the hellhound. My dad's resented me since the day I was born, Percy, she said. He never wanted a baby. When he got me, he asked Athena to take me back and raise me on Olympus because he was too busy with his work. She wasn't happy about that. She told him heroes had to be raised by their mortal parent. But how? I mean, I guess you weren't born in a hospital. I appeared on my father's doorstep in a golden cradle, carried down from Olympus by Zephyr the West Wind. You'd think that my dad would remember that as a miracle, right? Like maybe he'd take some digital photos or something. But he always talked about my arrival as if it was the most inconvenient thing that had ever happened to him. When I was 5, he got married and totally forgot about Athena. He got a regular mortal wife and had 2 regular mortal kids, and tried to pretend I didn't exist. I stared out the train window. The lights of a sleeping town were drifting by. I wanted to make Annabeth feel better, but I didn't know how. My mom married a really awful guy, I told her. Grover said she did it to protect me, to hide me in the scent of a human family. Maybe that's what your dad was thinking. Annabeth kept worrying at her necklace. She was pinching the gold college ring that hung with the beads. It occurred to me that the ring must be her father's. I wondered why she wore it if she hated him so much. He doesn't care about me, she said. His wife, my stepmother, treated me like a freak. She wouldn't let me play with her children, and my dad went along with her. Whenever something dangerous happened, something with monsters, they would both look at me resentfully, like, how dare you put our family at risk? Finally, I took the hint. I wasn't wanted. I ran away. How old were you? Same age as when I started camp. 7. But you couldn't have gotten all the way to Half-Blood Hill by yourself. Not alone, no. Athena watched over me, guided me towards help. I made a couple of unexpected friends who took care of me. For a short time, anyway. I wanted to ask what happened, but Annabeth seemed lost in sad memories. So I listened to the sound of Grover snoring and gazed out the train windows as the dark fields of Ohio raced by. Towards the end of our second day on the train, June 13th, 8 days before the summer solstice, we passed through some golden hills and over the Mississippi River into St. Louis. Annabeth craned her neck to see the gateway arch, which looked to me like a huge shopping bag handle stuck on the city. I want to do that, she sighed. What? I asked. Build something like that. You ever see the Parthenon, Percy? Only in pictures. Someday I'm going to see it in person. I'm going to build the greatest monument to the gods ever. Something that'll last 1,000 years. I laughed. You, an architect? I don't know why, but I found it funny. Just the idea of Annabeth trying to sit quietly and draw all day. Her cheeks flushed. Yes, an architect. Athena expects her children to create things, not just tear them down, like a certain gods of earthquake I could mention. I watched the churning brown water of the Mississippi below. Sorry, Annabeth said. That was mean. Can't we work together a little? I pleaded. I mean, didn't Athena and Poseidon ever cooperate? Athena had to think about it. I guess the chariot, she said tentatively. My mother invented it, but Poseidon created horses out of the crests of waves, so they had to work together to make it complete. Then we can cooperate too, right? We rode into the city, Annabeth watching as the arch disappeared behind a hotel. I suppose, she said at last. We pulled into the Amtrak station downtown. The intercom told us we'd have a 3-hour layover before departing for Denver. Grover stretched. Before he was even fully awake, he said, "Food." "Come on, goat boy," Annabeth said. "Sightseeing." "Sightseeing?" The gateway arch, she said. This may be my only chance to ride to the top. Are you coming or not? Grover and I exchanged looks. I wanted to say no, but I figured that if Annabeth was going, we couldn't very well let her go alone. Grover shrugged. As long as they're a snack bar without monsters. The arch was about a mile from the train station. Late in the day, the lines to get in weren't that long. We treaded our way through the underground museum, looking at covered wagons and other junk from the 1800s. It wasn't all that thrilling, but Annabeth kept telling us interesting facts about how the arch was built, and Grover kept passing me jelly beans, so I was okay. I kept looking around, though, at the other people in line. You smell anything? I murmured to Grover. He took his nose out of the jelly bean bag long enough to sniff. Underground, he said distastefully. Underground air always smells like monsters. Probably doesn't mean anything. But something felt wrong to me. I had a feeling we shouldn't be here. Guys, I said, you know the god symbol of power? Annabeth had been in the middle of reading about the construction equipment used to build the arch, but she looked over. Yeah? Well, Haiti, Grover cleared his throat. We're in a public place. You mean our friend downstairs? Right, I said. Our friend way downstairs. Doesn't he have a hat like Annabeth's? You mean the Helm of Darkness, Annabeth said. Yeah, that's a symbol of power. I saw it next to his seat during the winter solstice council meeting. He was there? I asked. She nodded. It's the only time he's allowed to visit Olympus, the darkest day of the year. But his helm is a lot more powerful than my invincibility cap, if what I've heard is true. It allows him to become darkness, Grover confirmed. He can melt into shadow or pass through walls. He can't be touched or seen or heard. And he can radiate fear so intense it can drive you insane or stop your heart. Why do you think all rational creatures fear the dark? But then, how do we know he's not here right now, watching us? I asked. Annabeth and Grover exchanged looks. We don't, Grover said. Thanks, that makes me feel a lot better, I said. Got any blue jelly beans left? I'd almost mastered my jumpy nerves when I saw the tiny little elevator car we were going to ride to the top of the arch, and I knew I was in trouble. I hated confined places. They made me nuts. We got shoehorned into the car with this big fat lady and her dog, a chihuahua with a rhinestone collar. I figured maybe the dog was a seeing eye chihuahua because none of the guards said a word about it. We started going up inside the arch. I'd never been in an elevator that went in a curve, and my stomach wasn't too happy about it. No parents? The fat lady asked us. She had beady eyes, pointy coffee-stained teeth, a floppy denim hat, and a denim dress that bulged so much she looked like a blue-jeaned blimp. They're below, Annabeth told her, scared of heights. Oh, the poor darlings, the chihuahua growled. The woman said, Now, Sonny, behave. The dog had beady eyes like its owner, intelligent and vicious. I said, Sonny, is that his name? No, the lady told me. She smiled as if that cleared everything up. At the top of the arch, the observation deck reminded me of a tin can with carpeting. Rows of tiny windows looked out over the city on one side, and the river on the other. The view was okay, but if there's anything I like less than a confined space, it's a confined space 600 feet in the air. I was ready to go pretty quick. Annabeth kept talking about structural supports and how she would have made the window bigger and designed a see-through floor. She probably could have stayed up there for hours, but lucky for me, the park ranger announced that the observation deck would be closing in a few minutes. I steered Grover and Annabeth towards the exit, loaded them into the elevator, and I was about to get myself... I steered Grover and Annabeth towards the exit, loaded them into the elevator, and I was about to get in myself when I realized there were already 2 other tourists inside. No room for me. The park ranger said, Next car, sir. We'll get out, Annabeth said. We'll wait with you. But that was going to mess everyone up and take even more time, so I said, Nah, it's okay. I'll see you guys at the bottom. Grover and Annabeth both looked nervous, but they let the elevator door slide shut. Their car disappeared down the ramp. Now the only people left on the observation deck were me, a little boy with his parents, the park ranger, and the fat lady with their chihuahua. I smiled uneasily at the fat lady. She smiled back, her forked tongue flickering between her teeth. Wait a minute. Forked tongue? Before I could decide if I'd really seen that, her chihuahua jumped down and started yapping at me. Now, Sonny, the lady said. Does this look like a good time? We have all these nice people here. Doggy, the little boy said. Look, a doggy! His parents pulled him back. The Chihuahua bared his teeth at me, foam dripping from his black lips. Well, son, the fat lady sighed, if you insist. Ice started forming in my stomach. Did you just call that Chihuahua your son? Chimera, dear, the fat lady corrected. Not a Chihuahua. It's an easy mistake to make. She rolled up her denim sleeves, revealing that the skin of her arms was scaly and green. When she smiled, I saw that her teeth were fangs. The pupil of her eyes were sideways slits, like a reptile's. The Chihuahua barked louder, and with each bark it grew, first to the size of a Doberman, then to a lion. The bark became a roar. The little boy screamed. His parents pulled him back towards the exit, straight toward the park ranger, who stood paralyzed, gaping at the monster. The chimera was now so tall its back rubbed against the roof. It had the head of a lion with the blood-caked mane, the body and hooves of a giant goat, and a serpent for a tail, a 10-foot-long diamondback growing right out of its shaggy behind. The rhinestone dog collar still hung around its neck, and the plate-sized dog tag was now easy to read. Chimera. Rabid, fire-breathing, poisonous. If found, please call Tartarus. Extension 954. This part is so stressful to me. This is probably one of my favorite ones. Jeez. Okay. I forgot this was in this book. I don't know why. Okay. I realized I hadn't even uncapped my sword. My hands were numb. I was 10 feet away from the chimera's bloody maw, and I knew that as soon as I moved, the creature would lunge. The snake lady made a hissing noise that might have been laughter. Be honored, Percy Jackson. Lord Zeus rarely allows me to test a hero with one of my brood. For I am the mother of monsters, the terrible echidna. I stared at her. All I could think to say was, Isn't that a kind of anteater? She howled, her reptilian face turning brown and green with rage. I hate it when people say that. I hate Australia, naming that ridiculous animal after me. For that, Percy Jackson, my son shall destroy you. The chimera charged, its lion teeth gnashing. I managed to leap aside and dodge the bite. I ended up next to the family and the park ranger, who were all screaming now, trying to pry open the emergency exit doors. I couldn't let them get hurt. I uncapped my sword, ran to the other side of the deck, and yelled, Hey, Chihuahua! The chimera turned faster than I would have thought possible. Before I could swing my sword, it opened its mouth, emitting a stench like the world's largest barbecue pit, and shot a column of flame straight at me. I dove through the explosion. The carpet burst into flames. The heat was so intense it nearly seared off my eyebrows. Where I'd been standing a moment before was a ragged hole in the side of the arch, with melted metal steaming around the edges. Great, I thought. We just blowtorched a national monument. Riptide was now a shining bronze blade in my hand, and as the chimera turned, I slashed at its neck. That was my fatal mistake. The blade sparked harmlessly off the dog collar. I tried to regain my balance, but I was so worried about defending myself against the fiery lion's mouth, I completely forgot about the serpent tail until it whipped around and sank its fangs into my calf. My whole leg was on fire. I tried to jab Riptide into the chimera's mouth, but the serpent tail wrapped around my ankles and pulled me off balance, and my blade flew out of my hand, spinning out of the hole in the arch and down towards the Mississippi River. I managed to get to my feet, but I knew I had lost. I was weaponless, and I could feel the deadly poison racing up my chest. I remembered Chiron saying that Anaklusmos would always return to me, but there was no pen in my pocket. Maybe it had fallen too far away. Maybe it only returned when it was in pen form. I didn't know, and I wasn't going to live long enough to find out. I backed into the hole in the wall. The chimera advanced, growling, smoke curling from its lips. The snake lady, Echidna, cackled. They don't make heroes like they used to, eh, son? The monster growled. It seemed in no hurry to finish me off now that I was beaten. I glanced at the park ranger and the family. The little boy was hiding behind his father's legs. I had to protect these people. I couldn't just die. I tried to think, but my whole body was on fire. My head felt dizzy, and I had no sword. I was facing a massive fire-breathing monster and its mother, and I was scared. There was no place else to go, so I stepped to the edge of the hole. Far, far below, the river glittered. If I died, would the monsters go away? Would they leave the humans alone? If you are the son of Poseidon, Echidna hissed, you would not fear the water. Jump, Percy Jackson. Show me that water will not harm you. Jump and retrieve your sword. Prove your bloodline. Yeah, right, I thought. I read somewhere that jumping into water from a couple stories up was like jumping onto solid asphalt. From here, I'd splatter on impact. The Chimera's mouth glowed red, heating up for another blast. You have no faith, Echidna told me. You do not trust the gods. I cannot blame you, little coward. Better you die now. The gods are faithless. The poison is in your heart. She's right. I was dying. I could feel my breath slowing down. No one could save me, not even the gods. I backed up and looked down at the water. I remembered the warm glow of my father's smile when I was a baby. He must have seen me. He must have visited me when I was in my cradle. I remembered the swirling green trident that had appeared above my head the night of Capture the Flag, when Poseidon had claimed me as his son. But this wasn't the sea. This was the Mississippi, dead center of the USA. There was no sea god here. Die, faithless one, Echidna rasped, and the Chimera sent a column of flame toward my face. Father, help me, I prayed. I turned and jumped. My clothes on fire, poison coursing through my veins, I plummeted towards the river. Dude, not gonna lie, crazy. Like, okay, first of all, also, there is no water, like, the Golden Arch. I'm pretty sure Rick Riordan, like, did, like, an interview, and he was like, I thought there was water under there. I didn't check when I was writing this book. There's no water under there, so this wouldn't, like, literally, like, the river is near it, but it's, like, a lot farther, so the river would have had to, like, reach out and, like, grab Percy. Anyways, that's crazy. Like, it's so kind of Percy to have to, like, think, oh my gosh, these people are gonna die. I need to, save them somehow. Like, he's so heroic. Again, he's 12. That's crazy. Like, I understand why he's upset at the gods and being like, I'm 12. Why do you need me to save the world? Why are you using me? Crazy, crazy. Also, there's a storm outside. It's really cool for effects, but if stream cuts out, that's why. Chapter 14. I become a known fugitive. I'd love to tell you I had some deep revelation on my way down, that I came to terms with my own mortality, laughed in the face of death, etc. The truth? My only thought was, The river raced towards me at the speed of a truck. Wind ripped the breath from my lungs. Steeples and skyscrapers and bridges tumbled in and out of my vision. And then, flaboom, a whiteout of bubbles. I sank through the murk, sure that I was about to end up embedded in 100 feet of mud and lost forever. But my impact with the water hadn't hurt. I was falling slowly now, bubbles trickling up through my fingers. I settled on the river bottom soundlessly. A catfish the size of my stepfather lurched away into the gloom. Clouds of silt and disgusting garbage, beer bottles, old shoes, plastic bags, swirled up all around me. At that point, I realized a few things. First, I had not been flattened into a pancake. I had not been barbecued. I couldn't even feel the chimera poison boiling in my veins anymore. I was alive, which was good. Second realization, I wasn't wet. I mean, I could feel the coolness of the water. I could see where the fire on my clothes had been quenched. But when I touched my own shirt, it felt perfectly dry. I looked at the garbage floating by and snatched an old cigarette lighter. No way, I thought. I flicked the lighter. It sparked. A tiny flame appeared, right there at the bottom of the Mississippi. I grabbed a soggy hamburger wrapper out of the current, and immediately the paper turned dry. I lit it with no problem. As soon as I let it go, the flame sputtered out. The wrapper turned back into a slimy rag. Weird. But the strangest thought occurred to me only last. I was breathing. I was underwater and I was breathing normally. I stood up, thigh deep in mud. My legs felt shaky. My hands trembled. I should have been dead. The fact that I wasn't seemed like, well, a miracle. I imagined a woman's voice, a voice that sounded a bit like my mother. Percy, what do you say? That Thanks. Underwater, I sounded like I did on recordings, like a much older kid. Thank you, Father. No response. Just the dark drift of garbage downriver, the enormous catfish gliding by, the flash of sunset on the water surface far above, turning everything the color of butterscotch. Why had Poseidon saved me? The more I thought about it, the more ashamed I felt. So I'd gotten lucky a few times before. Against a thing like the Chimera, I'd never stood a chance. Those poor people in the arch were probably toast. I couldn't protect them. I was no hero. Maybe I should just stay down here with the catfish, join the bottom feeders. Thump, thump, thump. A riverboat's paddle wheel churned above me, swirling the silt around. There, if not 5 feet in front of me, was my sword, its gleaming bronze hilt sticking up in the mud. I heard that woman's voice again. Percy, take the sword. Your father believes in you. This time, I knew the voice wasn't in my head. I wasn't imagining it. Her words seemed to come from everywhere, rippling through the water like dolphin sonar. Where are you? I called aloud. Then, through the gloom, I saw her. A woman, the color of water, a ghost in the current, floating just above the sword. She had long billowing hair, and her eyes, barely visible, were green, like mine. A lump formed in my throat. I said, Mom? No, child, only a messenger, though your mother's fate is not as hopeless as you believe. Go to the beach in Santa Monica. What? It is your father's will. Before you descend into the underworld, you must go to Santa Monica. Please, Percy, I cannot stay long. The river here is too foul for my presence. But I was sure this woman was my mother, or a vision of her anyway. How did you... There was so much I wanted to ask, the words jammed up in my throat. I cannot stay, brave one, the woman said. She reached out and I felt the current brush my face like a caress. You must go to Santa Monica, and Percy, do not trust the gifts. Her voice faded. Gifts? I asked. What gifts? Wait! She made one more attempt to speak, but the sound was gone. Her image melted away. If it was my mother, I had lost her again. I felt like drowning myself. The only problem, I was immune to drowning. Your father believes in you, she had said. She also called me brave, unless she was talking to the catfish. I waded towards Riptide and grabbed it by the hilt. The Chimera might still be up there with its snarky fat mother waiting to finish me off. At the very least, the mortal police would be arriving, trying to figure out who had blown a hole in the arch. I waded toward Riptide and grabbed it by the hilt. The Chimera might still be up there with its sneaky fat mother waiting to finish me off. At the very least, the mortal police would be arriving, trying to figure out who had blown a hole in the arch. If they found me, they'd have some questions. I capped my sword, stuck the ballpoint pen in my pocket. Thank you, Father, I said again to the dark water. Then I kicked up through the muck and swam to the surface. I came ashore next to a floating McDonald's. A block away, every emergency vehicle in St. Louis was surrounding the arch. Police helicopters circled overhead. The crowd of onlookers reminded me of Times Square on New Year's Eve. A little girl said, Mama, that boy walked out of the river. That's nice, dear, her mother said, craning her neck to watch the ambulance. But he's dry. That's nice, dear. A news lady was talking for the camera. Probably not a terrorist attack, we're told, but it's still very early in the investigation. The damage, as you can see, is very serious. We're trying to get some of the survivors to question them about eyewitness reports of someone falling out of the arch. Survivors! I felt a surge of relief. Maybe the park ranger and that family made it out safely. I hoped Annabeth and Grover were okay. I tried to push through the crowd to see what was going on inside the police line. An adolescent boy, another reporter was saying. Channel 5 has learned that surveillance cameras show an adolescent boy going wild on the observation deck, somehow setting off this freak explosion. Hard to believe, John, but that's what we're hearing. Again, no confirmed fatalities. I backed away, trying to keep my head down. I had to go a long way around the police perimeter. Uniformed officers and news reporters were everywhere. I almost lost hope of ever finding Annabeth and Grover when a familiar voice bleated, Percy! I turned and got tackled by Grover's bear hug, or goat hug. He said, We thought you'd gone to Hades the hard way. Annabeth stood behind him, trying to look angry, but even she seemed relieved to see me. We can't leave you alone for 5 minutes. What happened? I sort of fell. Percy, 600 feet and 630 feet? Behind us, the cop shouted, "Gangway!" The crowd parted and a couple of paramedics hustled out, rolling a woman on a stretcher. I recognized her immediately as the mother of the little boy who'd been on the observation deck. She was saying, "And then this huge dog, this huge fire-breathing chihuahua." "Okay, ma'am," the paramedic said. "Just calm down. Your family is fine. The medication is starting to kick in." "I'm not crazy. This boy jumped out of the hole and the monster disappeared." Then she saw me. "There he is. That's the boy." I turned quickly and pulled Annabeth and Grover after me. We disappeared into the crowd. "What's going on?" Annabeth demanded. "Was she talking about the chihuahua in the elevator?" I told him the whole story about the chimera, echidna, my high dive act, and the underwater lady's message. "Whoa," Grover said. "We've got to get you to Santa Monica. You can't ignore a summons from your dad." Before Annabeth could respond, we passed another reporter doing a news break, and I almost froze in my tracks when he said, "Percy Jackson." "That's right, Dan. Channel 12 has learned that the boy who may have caused this explosion fits the description of a young man wanted by authorities for a serious New Jersey bus accident 3 days ago. And the boy is believed to be traveling west. For our viewers at home, here is a photo of Percy Jackson." We ducked around the news van and slipped into an alley. "First things first," I told Grover. "We've got to get out of town." Somehow we made it back to the Amtrak station without getting spotted. We got on board of the train just before it pulled out for Denver. The train trundled west as darkness fell, police lights still pulsing against the St. Louis skyline behind us. That's crazy, dude. Like, that's crazy. Yeah, so Percy is a fully fledged fugitive at this point. Yeah, say that 5 times fast. Dang, poor Percy, dude. My boy cannot catch a break. Where did my mouse go? But yeah, no, that's crazy. Like, he's already seen Medusa. He's met the Chimera already. Like, this is crazy, dude. Oh, do we have a guest?
Hi, baby.
Chapter 15. A God buys us a cheeseburger. The next afternoon, June 14th, 7 days before the solstice, our train rolled into Denver. We hadn't eaten since the night before in the dining car, somewhere in Kansas. We hadn't taken a shower since Half-Blood Hill, and I was sure that was obvious. "Let's try to contact Chiron," Annabeth said. "I want to tell him about your talk with the river spirit." "We can't use phones, right?" "I'm not talking about phones." We wandered through downtown for about half an hour, though I wasn't sure what Annabeth was looking for. The air was dry and hot, which felt weird after the humidity of St. Louis. Everywhere we turned, the Rocky Mountains seemed to be staring at me, like a tidal wave about to crash into the sky. Finally, we found an empty do-it-yourself car wash. We veered towards the stall farthest from the street, keeping our eyes open for patrol cars. We were 3 adolescents hanging out in a car wash without a car. Any cop worth his donuts would figure we were up to no good. "What are we doing exactly?" I asked as Grover took out the spray gun. "It's 75 cents, he grumbled. "I've only got 2 quarters left. Annabeth?" "Don't look at me," she said. The dining car wiped me out. I fished out my last bit of change and passed Grover a quarter, which left me 2 nickels and 1 drachma from Medusa's place. "Excellent," Grover said. "We can do it with a spray bottle, of course, but the connection isn't as good, and my arm gets tired of pumping." "What are you talking about?" For a second I was like, is the fireplace crackling not going? I'm so used to the rain being so loud. Sorry. Where are we? Hi, Sam. Sam, I hope you're doing well. Okay. What are you talking about? He fed in the quarters and set the knob to fine mist. IMing. Instant messaging? Iris messaging, Annabeth corrected. The rainbow god Iris carries messages for the gods. If you know how to ask and she's not too busy, she'll do the same for half-bloods. You summoned the goddess with a spray gun? Grover pointed the nozzle in the air and air hissed out of a thick white mist. Unless you know an easier way to make a rainbow. Sure enough, late afternoon light filters through the vapor and broke into colors. Annabeth held her palm out to me. Drachma, please. I handed it over. She raised a coin over her head. Oh, goddess, accept our offering. She threw the drachma into the river, into the rainbow. It disappeared into a golden shimmer. Half-Blood Hill, Annabeth requested. For a moment, nothing happened. Then I was looking through the mist at Strawberry Fields and the Long Island Sound in the distance. We seemed to be on the porch of the big house. Standing with his back to us at the railing was a sandy-haired guy in shorts and an orange tank top. He was holding a bronze sword and seemed to be staring intently at something down in the meadow. Luke! I called. He turned, eyes wide. I could swear he was standing 3 feet in front of me through the screen of mist, except I could only see part of him that appeared in the rainbow. Percy! His scarred face broke out into a grin. Is that Annabeth too? Thank the gods! Are you guys okay? We're, fine, Annabeth stammered. She was madly straightening her dirty t-shirt, trying to comb the loose hair out of her face. We thought... Chiron, he's down at the cabins. Luke's smile faded. We're having some issues with the campers. Listen, is everything cool with you? Is Grover all right? I'm right here, Grover called. He held the nozzle out to one side and stepped into Luke's line of vision. What kind of issues? Just then, a big Lincoln Continental pulled into the car wash with its stereos turned up to maximum hip-hop. As the car slid into the next stall, the bass from the subwoofers vibrated so much it shook the pavement. Chiron had to... What's that noise? Luke yelled. I'll take care of it, Annabeth yelled back, looking very relieved to have an excuse to get out of sight. Grover, come on. What? Grover said. But give Percy the nozzle and come on, she ordered. Grover muttered something about girls being harder to understand than the Oracle at Delphi. Then he handed me the spray gun and followed Annabeth. I readjusted the hose so I could keep the rainbow going and still see Luke. Chiron had to break up a fight, Luke shouted to me over the music. Things are pretty tense over here, Percy. Word leaked out about the Zeus-Poseidon standoff. We're still not sure how. Probably the same scumbag who summoned the Hellhound. Now the campers are starting to take sides. It's shaping up like the Trojan War all over again. Aphrodite, Ares, and Apollos are backing Poseidon, more or less. Athena is backing Zeus. I shuddered to think that Clarissa's cabin would ever be on my dad's side for anything. In the next stall, I heard Annabeth and some guy arguing with each other, then the music's voice decreasing drastically. So what's your status? Luke asked me. Chiron will be sorry he missed you. I pretty much told him everything, including my dreams. It felt so good to see him, to feel like I was back at camp for even a few minutes, that I didn't realize how long I had talked until the beeper went off on the spray machine. And I realized I only had 1 more minute before the water shut off. I wish I could be there, Luke told me. We can't help much from here, I'm afraid, but listen, it had to be Hades who took the Master Bolt. He was there at Olympus at the winter solstice. I was chaperoning a field trip and we saw him. But Chiron said the gods can't take each other's magics at him directly. That's true, Luke said, looking troubled. Still, Hades has the Helm of Darkness. How could anybody else sneak into the throne room and steal the Master Bolt? You'd have to be invisible. We were both silent, and Luke seemed to realize what he said. Oh, hey, he protested. I didn't mean Annabeth. She and I have known each other since forever. She would never... she's like a little sister to me. I wonder if Annabeth would like that description. In the stall next to us, the music completely stopped. A man screamed in terror, car door slammed, and the Lincoln peeled out of the car wash. You better go see what that was, Luke said. Listen, are you wearing the flying shoes? I'll feel better if I know they've done you some good. Oh yeah. I tried not to sound like a guilty liar. Yeah, they've come in handy. Really? He grinned. They fit in everything? The water shut off. The mist started to evaporate. Well, take care of yourself out there in Denver. Luke called, his voice getting fainter. Tell Grover it'll be better this time. No one will get turned to a pine tree if he just... But the mist was gone, and Luke's image faded to nothing, and I was alone in a wet, empty car wash stall. Annabeth and Grover came around the corner, laughing, but stopped when they saw my face. Annabeth's smiles faded. What happened, Percy? What did Luke say? Not much, I lied, my stomach feeling as empty as a Big 3 cabin. Come on, let's find some dinner. Oop. Oop. Grover, huh? No one will, huh? Ooh, I think Grover's got some explaining to do. A few minutes later, we were sitting at a booth in a gleaming chrome diner. All around us, families were eating burgers and drinking malts and sodas. Finally, the waitress came over. She raised her eyebrows skeptically. Well? I said, we, want to order dinner. You kids have money to pay for it? Grover's lower lip quivered. I was afraid he would start bleeding, or worse, start eating the linoleum. Annabeth looked ready to pass out from hunger. I was trying to think of a sob story for the waitress when a yes, I was trying to think of a sob story for the waitress when a rumble shook the whole building. A motorcycle the size of a baby elephant had pulled up to the curb. All conversation in the diner stopped. The motorcycle's headlight glared red. Its gas tank had flames painted on it, and a shotgun holster riveted to either side, complete with shotguns. The seat was leather, but leather that looked more like, well, Caucasian human skin. The guy on the bike would have made pro wrestlers run for mama. He was dressed in a red muscle shirt and black jeans and a black leather duster with a hunting knife strapped to his thigh. He wore red wraparound shades, and he had the cruelest, most brutal face I'd ever seen. Handsome, I guess, but wicked, with an oily black crew cut and cheeks that were scarred from many, many fights. The weird thing was, I felt like I'd seen his face somewhere before. As he walked into the diner, a hot, dry wind blew throughout the place. All the people rose as if they were hypnotized, but the biker waved his hand dismissively, and they all sat down again. Everyone went back to their conversations. The waitress blinked as if someone had just pressed the rewind button on her brain. She asked us again, "You kids have money to pay for it?" The biker said, "It's on me." He slid into our booth, which was way too small for him, and crowded Annabeth against the window. He looked up at the waitress who was gaping at him and said, "Are you still here?" He pointed at her, and she stiffened. She turned as if she'd been spun around and then marched back towards the kitchen. The biker looked at me. I couldn't see his eyes behind the red shades, but bad feelings started boiling in my stomach. Anger, resentment, bitterness. I wanted to hit a wall. I wanted to pick a fight with someone. Who did this guy think he was? He gave me a wicked grin. "So you're all seaweeds, kid, huh?" I should have been surprised or scared, but instead I felt like I was looking at my stepdad, Gabe. I wanted to rip this guy's heads off. "What's it to you?" Annabeth's eyes flashed me a warning. "Percy, this is..." The biker raised his hand. "It's okay," he said. "I don't mind a little attitude, long as you remember who's the boss. Do you know who I am, little cousin?" Then it struck me why this guy looked familiar. He had the same vicious sneer as some of the kids at Camp Half-Blood, the ones from Cabin 5. "You're Clarice's dad," I said. "Ares, god of war." Ares grinned and took off his shades. Where his eyes should have been, there were only fires, empty sockets glowing with miniature nuclear explosions. "That's right, punk. I heard you blow Clarice's spear. She was asking for it." "Probably. That's cool. I don't fight my kids' fights, you know. What I'm here for, I heard you were in town. I got a little proposition for you." The waitress came back with heaping trays of food, cheeseburgers, fries, onion rings, and chocolate shakes. Ares handed her a few golden drachmas. She looked nervously at the coins. "But these aren't..." Ares pulled out his huge knife and started cleaning his fingernails. "Problem, sweetheart?" The waitress swallowed, then left with the gold. "You can't do that," I told Ares. "You can't just threaten people with a knife." Ares laughed. "Are you kidding? I love this country. Best place in Sparta. Don't you carry a weapon, punk? You should. Dangerous world out there. Which brings me to my proposition. I need you to do me a favor." "What favor could I do for a god?" "Something a god doesn't have time to do himself. It's nothing much. I left my shield at the abandoned water park here in town. I was going on a little date with my girlfriend. We were interrupted. I left my shield behind. I want you to fetch it for me." "Why don't you go back and get it yourself?" The fire in his eye sockets glowed a little hotter. Why don't I turn you into a prairie dog and run you over with my Harley?" "Because I don't feel like it. A god is giving you an opportunity to prove yourself, Percy Jackson. Will you prove yourself a coward?" He leaned forward. "Or maybe you only fight when there's a river to dive into so your daddy can protect you." I wanted to punch this guy, but somehow I knew he was waiting for that. Ares' power was causing my anger. He'd love it if I attacked. I didn't want to give him that satisfaction. "We're not interested," I said. "We've already got a quest." Ares' fiery eyes made me see things I didn't want to see. Blood and smoke and corpses on battlefields. "I know all about your quest, punk. When that item was first stolen, Zeus sent his best out looking for it. Apollo, Athena, Artemis, and me, naturally. If I couldn't sniff out a weapon that powerful," he licked his lips as if the very thought of the Master Bolt made him hungry. "Well, if I can't find it, you've got no hope. Nevertheless, I'm trying to give you the benefit of the doubt. Your dad and I go way back. After all, I'm the one who told him my suspicions about old corpse breath. You told him Hades stole the boat? Sure, framing someone to start a war. Oldest trick in the book. I recognized it immediately. In a way, you've got me to thank for your little quest. Thanks, I grumbled. Hey, I'm a generous guy. Just do my little job and I'll help you on your way. I'll arrange a ride west for you and your friends. We're doing fine on our own. Yeah, right. No money, no wheels, no clue what you're up against. Help me out and maybe I'll tell you something you need to know. Something about your mom. My mom? He grinned. That got your attention. That water park is a mile west on the Delancey. You can't miss it. Look for the Tunnel of Love ride. What interrupted your date? I asked. Something scared you off? Ares bared his teeth, but I'd seen his threatening look before on Clarice. There was something false about it. Almost like he was nervous. You're lucky you met me, punk, and not one of the other Olympians. They're not as forgiving of rudeness as I am. I'll meet you back here when you're done. Don't disappoint me. After that, I must have fainted or fallen into a trance, because when I opened my eyes again, Ares was gone. I might have thought the conversation was a dream, but Annabeth and Grover's expressions told me otherwise. Not good, Grover said. Ares sought you out, Percy. This is not good. I stared out the window. The motorcycle had disappeared. Did Ares really know something about my mom, or was he just playing with me? Now that he was gone, all the anger had drained out of me. I realized Ares must love to mess with people's emotions. That was his power. Cranking up the passion so badly they clouded your ability to think. It's probably some kind of trick, I said. Forget Ares. Let's just go. We can't, Annabeth said. Look, I hate Ares as much as anybody, but you don't ignore the gods unless you want some serious bad fortune. He wasn't kidding about turning you into a rodent. I looked down at my cheeseburger, which suddenly didn't seem so appetizing. Why does he need us? Maybe it's a problem that requires brains, Annabeth said. Ares has strength. That's all he has. Even strength has to bow to wisdom sometimes. With this water park, he acted almost scared. What would make a war god run away from that? Annabeth and Grover glanced nervously at each other. Annabeth said, I'm afraid we'll have to find out. The sun was sinking behind the mountains by the time we found the water park. Judging from the sign, it once had been called Waterland, but now some of the letters were smashed out, so it read Wat Rad. The main gate was padlocked and topped with barbed wire. Inside, huge dry water slides and tubes and pipes curled everywhere, leading to empty pools. Old tickets and advertisements fluttered around the asphalt. With night coming on, the place looked sad and creepy. If Ares brings his girlfriend here for a date, I said, staring up at the barbed wire, I hate to see what she looks like. Percy, Annabeth warmed. Be more respectful. Why? I thought you hated Ares. He's still a god, and his girlfriend is very temperamental. You don't want to insult her looks, Grover added. Who is she? Echidna? No, Aphrodite, Droger said, a little dreamily. Goddess of love. I thought she was married to someone. I said, Hephaestus? What's your point? He asked. Oh. I suddenly felt the need to change the subject. So, how do we get in? Maya! Grover's shoes sprouted wings. He flew over the fence, did an unintended somersault in midair, and then stumbled to a landing on the opposite side. He dusted off his jeans as if he planned the whole thing. You guys coming? Annabeth and I had to climb the fence the old-fashioned way, holding down the barbed wire for each other as we crawled over the top. The shadows grew long as we walked through the park, checking out the attractions. There was Ankle Biter Island, Head Over Wedgie, and Dude, Where's My Swimsuit? No monsters came to get us. Nothing made the slightest noise. We found a souvenir shop that had been left open. Merchandise still lined the shelves. Snow globes, pencils, postcards, and racks of clothes, Annabeth said. Fresh clothes. Yeah, I said, but you can't just watch me. She snatched an entire row of stuff off the racks and disappeared into the changing room. A few minutes later, she came out in Waterland flower print shorts, a big red Waterland t-shirt, and commemorative Waterland surf shoes. A Waterland backpack was slung over her shoulder, obviously stuffed with more goodies. What the heck? Grover shrugged. Soon all three of us were decked out looking like walking advertisements for the defunct theme park. We continued searching for the Tunnel of Love. I got the feeling the whole park was holding its breath. So, Ares and Aphrodite, I said to keep my mind off the growing dark. They have a thing going? That's old gossip, Percy, Annabeth told me. 3,000-year-old gossip. What about Aphrodite's husband? Well, you know, she said. Hephaestus, the blacksmith. He was crippled when he was a baby, thrown off Mount Olympus by Zeus. So he isn't exactly handsome. Clever with his hands and all, but Aphrodite isn't into brains and talent, you know? She likes bikers. Whatever. Hephaestus knows? Oh, sure, Annabeth said. He caught them together once. I mean, literally caught them, in a gold net, and invited all the gods to come and laugh at them. Hephaestus is always trying to embarrass them. That's why they meet in out-of-the-way places like... She stopped, looking straight ahead. Like that. In front of us was an empty pool that would have been awesome for skateboarding. It was at least 50 yards across and shaped like a bowl. Around the rim, a dozen bronze statues of Cupid stood guard with wings spread and bows ready to fire. On the opposite side from us, a tunnel opened up, probably where the water flowed into when the pool was full. The sign above it read, Thrill Ride. Thrill Ride of Love. This is not your parents' tunnel of love. Grover crept towards the edge. Guys, look. Marooned at the bottom of the pool was a pink and white two-seater boat with a canopy over the top and little hearts painted all over it. In the left sea, glinting in the fading light, was Ares' shield, a polished circle of bronze. This is too easy, I said. So we just walk down there and get it? Annabeth ran her fingers down the base of the nearest Cupid statue. There's a Greek leopard carved here, she said. Etta, I wonder... Grover, I said, you smell any monsters? He sniffed the wind. Nothing. Nothing like in the Argent you didn't smell echidna nothing, or really nothing? Grover looked hurt. I told you, that was underground. Okay, I'm sorry. I took a deep breath. I'm going down there. I'll go with you. Grover didn't sound too enthusiastic, but I got the feeling he was trying to make up for what had happened in St. Louis. No, I told him. I want you to stay up top with the flying shoes. You're the Red Baron, a flying ace, remember? I'll be counting on you for backup, in case something goes wrong. Grover puffed up his chest a little. Sure, but what could go wrong? I don't know, just a feeling. Annabeth, come with me. Are you kidding? She looked at me as if I just dropped from the moon. Her cheeks were bright red. What's the problem now? I demanded. Me? Go with you to the thrill ride of love? How embarrassing is that? What if someone saw me? Who's going to see you? But my face was burning now, too. Leave it to a girl to make everything complicated. Fine, I told her. I'll do it myself. But when I started down the side of the pool, she followed me, muttering about how boys always mess things up. We reached the boat. The shield was propped on one seat, and next to it was a lady's silk scarf. I tried to imagine Ares and Aphrodite here, a couple of gods meeting in a junked-out amusement park ride. Why? Then I noticed something I hadn't seen from up top. Mirrors all the way around the rim of the pool facing the spot. We could see ourselves no matter which direction we looked. That must be it. While Ares and Aphrodite were smooching with each other, they could look at their favorite people, themselves. I picked up the scarf. It shimmered pink, and the perfume was indescribable. Rose, or mountain laurel. Something good. I smiled, a little dreamy, and was about to rub the scarf against my cheek when Annabeth ripped it out of my hand and stuffed it in her pocket. Oh, no, you don't. Stay away from that love magic. What? Just get the shield, seaweed brain, and let's get out of here. The moment I touched the shield, I knew we were in trouble. My hand broke through something that had been connecting it to the dashboard. A cobweb, I thought, but then I looked at a strand of it on my palm and saw it was some kind of metal filament, so fine it was almost invisible. A tripwire. Wait, Annabeth said. Too late. There's another Greek letter on the side of the boat. Another Etta. This is a trap. A noise erupted all around us, of a million gears grinding, as if the whole pool were turning into one giant machine. Grover yelled, Guys? Up on the rim, the Cupid statues were drawing their bows into firing position. Before I could suggest taking cover, they shot, but not at us. They fired at each other across the rim of the pool. Silky cables trailed from the arrows, arcing over the pool and anchoring where they landed to form a huge golden asterisk. Then smaller metallic threads started weaving together magically between the main strands, making a net. We have to get out, I said. Duh, Annabeth said. I grabbed the shield and we ran, but going up the slope of the pool was not as easy as going down. Come on, Grover shouted. He was trying to hold open a section of the net for us, but wherever he touched it, the golden thread started to wrap around his hands. The Cupid's heads popped open. Out came video cameras. Spotlights rose up all around the pool, blinding us with illumination, and a loudspeaker boomed. Live to Olympus in 1 minute. 59 seconds. 58. Hephaestus! Annabeth screamed. I'm so stupid. Etta is H. He made this trap to catch his wife with Ares. Now we're going to be broadcast live to Olympus and look like absolute fools. We'd almost made it to the rim when the row of mirrors opened like hatches and thousands of tiny metallic things poured out. Annabeth screamed. It was an army of wind-up creepy crawlies, bronze gear bodies, spindly legs, little pincer mouths, all scuttling toward us in a wave of clacking, whirring metal. Spiders! Annabeth said. Ah! I'd never seen her like this before. She fell backwards in terror and almost got overwhelmed by the spider robots before I pulled her up and dragged her back towards the boat. Things were coming out from... Oh, the things were coming out from all around the rim now, millions of them, flooding towards the center of the pool, completely surrounding us. I told myself they probably weren't programmed to kill, just corral us and bite us and make us look stupid. Then again, this was a trap meant for gods, and we weren't gods. Annabeth and I climbed into the boat. I started kicking away the spiders as they swarmed aboard. I yelled at Annabeth to help me, but she was too paralyzed to do much more than scream. 30, 29, called the loudspeaker. The spiders started spitting out strands of metal thread, trying to tie us down. The strands were easy enough to break at first, but there were so many of them, and the spiders just kept coming. I kicked one away from Annabeth's leg, and its pincers took a chunk out of my new surf shoes. Grover hovered above the pool in his flying sneakers, trying to pull the net loose, but it wouldn't budge. Think, I told myself, think. The tunnel of love entrance was under the net. We could use it as an exit, except that it was blocked by a million robot spiders. 15, 14, the loudspeaker called. Water, I thought. Where does this ride's water come from? Then I saw them. Huge water pipes behind the mirrors where the spiders had come from. And up above the net, next to one of the cupids, a glass windowed booth that must be the controller station. Grover, I yelled, get into that booth. Find the on switch. But do it. It was a crazy hope, but it was our only chance. The spiders were all over the prow of the boat now. Annabeth was screaming her head off. I had to get us out of there. Grover was in the controller's booth now, slamming away at the buttons. 5, 4. Grover looked up at me hopelessly, raising his hands. He was letting me know that he'd pushed every button, but still nothing was happening. I closed my eyes and thought about waves, rushing water, the Mississippi River. I felt a familiar tug in my gut. I tried to imagine that I was dragging the ocean all the way to Denver. 2, 1, 0. Water exploded out of the pipes. It roared into the pool, sweeping away the spiders. I pulled Annabeth into the seat next to me and fastened her seatbelt just as the tidal wave slammed into our boat, over the top, whisking the spiders away and dousing us completely, but not capsizing us. The boat turned, lifted in the flood, and spun in circles around the whirlpool. The water was full of short-circuiting spiders, some of them smashed against the pool's concrete wall with such force they burst. Spotlights glared down at us, the Cupid cams were rolling, live to Olympus. But I could only concentrate on controlling the boat. I willed it to ride the current, to keep away from the wall. Maybe it was my imagination, but the boat seemed to respond. At least it didn't break into a million pieces. We spun around one last time, the water level now almost high enough to shred us against the metal net. Then the boat's nose turned towards the tunnel and we rocketeered through into the darkness. Annabeth and I held tight, both of us screaming as the boat shot curls and hugged corners and took 45-degree plunges past pictures of Romeo and Juliet and a bunch of other Valentine's Day stuff. Then we were out of the tunnel, the night air whistling through our hair as the boat barreled straight towards the exit. If the ride had been in working order, we would have sailed off the ramp between the Golden Gates of Love and splashed down safely in the exit pool. But there was a problem. The Gates of Love were chained. 2 boats that had been washed out of the tunnel before us were now piled against the barricade, one submerged, the other cracked in half. Unfasten your seatbelt, I yelled to Annabeth. Are you crazy? Unless you want to get smashed to death. I strapped Ares' shield to my arm. We're going to have to jump for it. My idea was simple and insane. As the boat struck, we would use its force like a springboard to jump the gate. I'd heard of people surviving car crashes that way, getting thrown 30 or 40 feet away from the accident. With luck, we would land in the pool. Annabeth seemed to understand. She gripped my hand as the gates got closer. On my mark, I said. No, on my mark. What? Simple physics, she said. Force times the trajectory angle, fine, I shouted. On your mark. She hesitated, then yelled. Now. Crack. Annabeth was right. If we jumped when I thought we should have, we would have crashed into the gates. She got us maximum lift. Unfortunately, there was a little more than we needed. Our boat smashed into the pileup and we were thrown into the air, straight over the gate, over the pool, and down toward solid asphalt. Something grabbed me from behind. Annabeth yelled, "Ouch! Grover!" In midair, he had grabbed me by my shirt and Annabeth by the arms, and was trying to pull us out of the crash landing, but Annabeth and I had all the momentum. "You're too heavy," Grover said. "We're going down." We spiraled towards the ground, and Grover doing his best to slow the fall. We smashed into a photo board, Grover's head going straight into the holes where tourists would put their faces, pretending to be Nunu the friendly whale. Annabeth and I tumbled to the ground, banged up but alive. Aries' shield was still on my arm. Once we caught our breath, Annabeth and I got Grover out of the photo board and thanked him for saving our lives. I looked back at the thrill ride of love. The water was subsiding. Our boat had been smashed to pieces against the gates. 100 yards away at the entrance pool, the Cupids were still filming. The statues had swiveled so that their cameras were trained straight on us, the spotlights in our faces. "Show's over!" I yelled. "Thank you! Good night!" The Cupids turned back to their original positions. The light shut off. The park went quiet and dark again, except for the gentle trickle of water into the thrill ride of love's exit pool. I wonder if Olympus had gone to a commercial break or if our ratings had been any good. I hate being teased. I hated being tricked. And I had plenty of experience handling bullies who liked to do that stuff to me. I hefted the shield on my arm and turned to my friends. "We need to have a little talk with Aries." Yeah, and that's chapter 15. That's crazy. I feel like it's really just Percy being used, and it's so bad because it's like some part of it is like, why can't Percy see that he's being used? But like on the other hand, it's like he's 12, you know. why would he just think that, you know? So I do feel bad for Percy. I am glad that he was smart enough to think that he could like to think about that solution, and I'm glad that Annabeth caught on, like almost like without really saying anything. So I'm glad they were able to do that. But yeah, no, that's Hephaestus is crazy. Like, do the gods, can they not like, and this is just an ignorant question mayhaps, can they not like break up? Because like, if Hephaestus knows that Ares is canoodling with his wife, why wouldn't, like you know what I mean? Like, why wouldn't he be like, or is it just that like, or is it just that, oh, Bean is there, or is it just that like Aphrodite convinces him that she loves him or whatever, and so they just don't break up? But like, does he offer her anything that she would really be missing if she went to Ares? I don't know. I need to read some more on the actual Greek myths and stuff. Chapter 16. We take a zebra to Vegas. The war god was waiting for us in the diner parking lot. "Well, well," he said. "You didn't get yourself killed." "You knew it was a trap," I said. Ares gave me a wicked grin. Bet that crippled blacksmith was surprised when he netted a couple of stupid kids. "You look good on TV." I shoved his shield at him. "You're a jerk." Annabeth and Grover caught their breath. Ares grabbed the shield and spun it in the air like pizza dough. It changed shape, melting into a bulletproof vest. He slung it across his back. "See that truck over there?" He pointed to an 18-wheeler parked across the street from the diner. "That's your ride. Take you straight to LA with one stop in Vegas." The 18-wheeler had a sign on the back, which I could only read because it was reverse printed white on black, a good combination for dyslexia. "Kindness International, Humane Zoo Transport. Warning, live wild animals." I said. "You're kidding." Aries snapped his fingers. The back door of the truck unlatched. "Free ride west, punk. Stop complaining. And here's a little something for doing the job." He slung a blue nylon backpack off his handlebars and tossed it to me. Inside were fresh clothes for all of us. $20 in cash, and a pouch full of gold drachmas, and a bag of double stuffed Oreos. I said, "I don't want your lousy—" "Thank you, Lord Ares," Grover interrupted, giving me his best red alert warning look. "Thanks a lot." I gritted my teeth. It was probably a deadly insult to refuse something from a god, but I didn't want anything that Ares had touched. Reluctantly, I slung the backpack over my shoulder. I knew my anger was being caused by the war god's presence, but I was still itching to punch him in the nose. He reminded me of every bully I'd ever faced. Nancy Bobofit, Clarice, Smelly Gabe, sarcastic teachers. Every jerk who'd call me stupid in school or laughed at me when I'd gotten expelled. I looked back at the diner, which had only a couple of customers now. The waitress who'd served us dinner was watching nervously out the window, like she was afraid Ares might hurt us. She dragged the fry cook out from the kitchen to see. She said something to him. He nodded, held up a little disposable camera, and snapped a picture of us. Great, I thought. We'll make the papers again tomorrow. I imagined the headline, 12-year-old outlaw beats up defenseless biker. You owe me one more thing, I told Ares, trying to keep my voice level. You promised me information about my mother. Sure you can handle the news? He kick-started his motorcycle. She's not dead. The ground seemed to spin beneath me. What do you mean? I mean, she was taken away from the Minotaur before she could die. She was turned into a shower of gold, right? That's metamorphosis, not death. She's being kept. Kept? Why? You need to study war, punk. Hostages. You take somebody to control somebody else. Nobody's controlling me. He laughed. Oh, yeah? See you around, kid. I balled up my fists. You're pretty smug, Lord Ares, for a guy who runs from Cupid statues. Behind his sunglasses, fire glowed. I felt a hot wind in my hair. We'll meet again, Percy Jackson. Next time we are in a fight, watch your back. He revved his Harley and then roared down the Delancey Street. Annabeth said, That was not smart, Percy. I don't care. You don't want a god as your enemy, especially not that god. Hey guys, Grover said. I'd hate to interrupt, but... He pointed toward the diner. At the register, the last two customers were paying their check. Two men in identical black coveralls with the white logo on their backs that matched the one on the Kindless International truck. If we're taking the Zoo Express, Grover said, we need to hurry. I didn't like it, but we had no better options. Besides, I'd seen enough of Denver. We ran across the street and climbed in the back of the big rig, closing the doors behind us. The first thing that hit me was the smell. It was like the world's biggest pan of kitty litter. The trailer was dark inside until I uncapped and a oh my gosh, Riptide. I'm just gonna call it Riptide. Big pardon me. The blade cast a faint bronze light over a sad scene. Sitting in the row of filthy metal cages were three of the most pathetic zoo animals I'd ever beheld. A zebra, a male albino lion, and some weird antelope thing I didn't know the name for. Someone had thrown the lion a sack of turnips, which he obviously didn't want to eat. The zebra and the antelope had each gotten a styrofoam tray of hamburger meat. The zebra's mane was matted with chewing gum, like somebody had been spitting on it in their spare time. The antelope had a stupid silver birthday balloon tied to one of his horns that read, Over the hill. Apparently nobody had wanted to get close enough to the lion to mess with him, but the poor thing was pacing around on soiled blankets in a space way too small for him, panting from the stuffy heat of the trailer. He had flies buzzing around his pink eyes and his ribs showed through his white fur. Poor animals. This is kindness? Grover yelled. Humane zoo transport? He probably would have gone right back outside to beat up the truckers with his reed pipes, and I would have helped him. But just then the truck's engine roared to life. The trailer started shaking, and we were forced to sit down or fall down. We huddled in the corner on some mildewed feed sacks, trying to ignore the smell and the heat and the flies. Grover talked to the animals in a series of goat bleats, but they just stared at him sadly. Annabeth was in favor of breaking the cages and freeing them on the spot, but I pointed out it wouldn't do much good until the truck stopped moving. Besides, I had a feeling we might look a lot better to the lion than those turnips. I found a water jug and refilled their bowls, then used Riptide to drag the mismatched food out of their cages. I gave the meat to the lion and the turnips to the zebras and the antelope. Grover calmed the antelope down while Annabeth used her knife to cut the balloon off his horn. She wanted to cut the gum out of the zebra's mane too, but we decided that would be too risky with the truck bumping around. We told Grover to promise the animals we'd help them more in the morning, then we settled in for the night. Grover curled up on the turnip sack. Annabeth opened our bag of double-stuffed Oreos and nibbled on one half-heartedly. I tried to cheer myself up by concentrating on the fact that we were halfway to Los Angeles. Halfway to our destination. And it was only June 14th. The solstice wasn't until the 21st. We could make it in plenty of time. On the other hand, I had no idea what to expect next. The gods kept toying with me. At least Hephaestus had the decency to be honest about it. He'd put up cameras and advertised me as entertainment. But even when the cameras weren't rolling, I had a feeling my quest was being watched. I was a source of amusement for the gods. Hey, Annabeth said, I'm sorry for freaking out back there at the water park, Percy. That's okay. It's just, she shuddered. Spiders. Because of the Arachnus story, I guessed. She got turned into a spider for challenging your mom to a weaving contest, right? Annabeth nodded. Arachnus children have been taking revenge on the children of Athena ever since. If there's a spider within a mile of me, it'll find me. I hate the creepy little things. Anyways, I owe you. We're a team, remember? Besides, Grover did the fancy flying. I thought he was asleep, but he mumbled from the corner. I was pretty amazing, wasn't I? Annabeth and I laughed. She pulled apart an Oreo and handed me half. In the Iris message, did Luke really say nothing? I munched my cookie and thought about how to answer. The conversation via Rainbow had bothered me all evening. Luke said you and he go way back. He also said Grover wouldn't fail this time. Nobody would turn into a pine tree. In the dim bronze light of the sword blade, it was hard to read their expression. Grover let out a mournful bray. I should have told you the truth from the beginning, his voice trembled. I thought if you knew what a failure I was, you wouldn't want me along. You were the satyr who tried to rescue Thalia, the daughter of Zeus. He nodded glumly. And the other two half-bloods Thalia befriended, the ones who got safely to camp. I looked at Annabeth. That was you and Luke, wasn't it? She put down her Oreo, uneaten. Like you said, Percy, a 7-year-old half-blood wouldn't have made it very far alone. Athena guided me towards help. Thalia was 12 and Luke was 14. They'd both run away from home, like me. They were happy to take me with them. We were amazing monster fighters, even without training. We traveled north from Virginia without any real plans, fending off monsters for about 2 weeks before Grover found us. I was supposed to escort Thalia to camp, he said, sniffling. Only Thalia. I had strict orders from Chiron. Don't do anything that would slow down the rescue. We knew Hades was after her, see, but I couldn't just leave Luke and Annabeth by themselves. I thought if I could lead all 3 of them to safety. It was my fault the kindly ones caught up with us. I froze. I got scared on the way back to camp and took some wrong turns. If I had just been a little quicker... Stop it, Annabeth said. No one blames you. Thalia didn't blame you either. She sacrificed herself to save us, he said miserably. Her death was my fault. The Council of Cloven Elders said so. Because you wouldn't leave 2 other half-bloods behind? I said. That's not fair. Percy's right, Annabeth said. I wouldn't be here today if it weren't for you, Grover. Neither would Luke. We don't care what the council says. Grover kept sniffling in the dark. It's just my luck. I'm the lamest satyr ever, and I find the 2 most powerful half-bloods of the century, Thalia and Percy. You're not lame, Annabeth insisted. You've got more courage than any satyr I've ever met. Name one other who would dare to go to the underworld. I bet Percy's really glad you're here right now. She kicked me in the shin. Yeah, I said, which I would have done even without the kick. It's not luck that you found Thalia and me, Grover. You've got the biggest heart of any satyr ever. You're a natural searcher. That's why you'll be the one to find Pan. I heard a deep, satisfied sigh, and I waited for Grover to say something, but his breathing only got heavier. When the sound turned to snoring, I realized he'd fallen asleep. How does he do that? I marveled. I don't know, Annabeth said, but that was a really nice thing you told him. I meant it. We rode in silence for a few miles, bumping around on the feed stacks. The zebra munched a turnip. The lion licked the last of the hamburger meat off his lip and looked at me hopefully. Annabeth rubbed her necklace like she was thinking deep, strategic thoughts. That pine tree bead, I said. Is that from your first year? She looked. She hadn't realized what she was doing. Yeah, she said. Every August, the counselors picked the most important event of the summer and they painted on that year's beads. I got Thalia's pine tree, a Greek trireme on fire, a centaur in a prom dress. Now that was a weird summer. And the college ring is your father's? That's none of your... She stopped herself. Yeah, it is. You don't have to tell me. No. It's okay. She took a shaky breath. My dad sent it to me folded up in a letter 2 summers ago. The ring was like his main keepsake from Athena. He wouldn't have gotten through his doctoral program at Harvard without her. That's a long story. Anyways, he said he wanted me to have it. He apologized for being a jerk. Said he'd loved me and missed me. He wanted me to come home and live with him. That doesn't sound bad. Yeah, well, the problem was I believed him. I tried to go home for that school year, but my stepmom was the same as ever. She didn't want to put her kids in danger by living with a freak. Monsters attacked, and we argued. Monsters attacked, and we argued. I didn't even make it through the winter break. I called Chiron and came right back to Camp Half-Blood. You think you'll ever try living with your dad again? She wouldn't meet my eyes. Please, I'm not into self-inflicting pain. You shouldn't give up, I told her. You should write him a letter or something. Thanks for the advice, she said coldly. My father's made his choice about who he wants to live with. We passed another few miles of silence. So if the gods fight, I said, will things line up in the way they did with the Trojan War? Will it be Athena versus Poseidon? She put her head against the backpack Ares had given us and closed her eyes. I don't know what my mom will do. I just know I'll fight next to you. Why? Because you're my friend, seaweed brain. Any more stupid questions? I couldn't think of an answer for that. Fortunately, I didn't have to. Annabeth was asleep. I had trouble following her example, with Grover snoring and an albino lion staring hungrily at me, but eventually I closed my eyes. My nightmare started out as something I'd dreamed a million times before. I was being forced to take a standardized test while wearing a straitjacket. All the other kids were going out to recess, and the teacher kept saying, "Come on, Percy, you're not stupid, are you? Pick up your pencil." Then the dream strayed from the normal. I looked over at the next desk and saw a girl sitting there, also wearing a straitjacket. She was my age, with unruly black punk-style hair, dark eyeliner around her stormy green eyes, and freckles across her nose. Somehow I knew who she was. She was Thalia, daughter of Zeus. She struggled against the straitjacket, glared at me in frustration, and snapped, "Well, seaweed brain, one of us has to get out of here." She's right, my dream self thought. I'm going back to that cavern. I'm going to give Hades a piece of my mind. The straitjacket melted off of me. I fell through the classroom floor. The teacher's voice changed until it was cold and evil, echoing from the depths of a great chasm. "Percy Jackson," it said. "Yes, the exchange went well, I see." I was back in the dark cavern, spirits of the dead drifting around me. Unseen in the pit, the monstrous thing was speaking, but this time it wasn't addressing me. The numbing power of its voice seemed directed somewhere else. "Any suspects nothing?" it asked. Another voice, one I almost recognized, answered at my shoulder. "Nothing, my lord. He is as ignorant as the rest." I looked over, but no one was there. The speaker was invisible. "Deception upon deception," the thing in the pit mused aloud. "Excellent. Truly, my lord," said the voice next to me. "You are well named the Crooked One. But was it really necessary? I could have brought you what I stole directly." "You?" the monster said in scorn. "You have already shown your limits. You would have failed me completely had I not intervened." "But, my lord—" "Peace, little servant. Our 6 months have brought us much. Zeus's anger has grown. Poseidon has played his most desperate card. Now we shall use it against him. Shortly you shall have the reward you wish and your revenge, as soon as both items are delivered into my hands. But wait. He is here." "What?" The invisible servant suddenly sounded tense. "You summoned him, my lord?" "No." The full force of the monster's attention was now pouring over me, freezing me in place. "Blast his father's blood. He is too changeable, too unpredictable. The boy brought himself hither." "Impossible!" the servant cried. "For a weakling such as you, perhaps," the voice snarled. Then its cold power turned back on me. "So, you wish to dream of your quest, young half-blood? Then I will oblige." The scene changed. I was standing in a vast throne room with black marble halls and bronze floors. The empty horrid throne was made from human bones fused together. Standing at the foot of the dais was my mother, frozen in shimmery golden light, her arms outstretched. I tried to step towards her, but my legs wouldn't move. I reached for her, only to realize that my hands were withering to bone. Grinning skeletons in Greek armor crowded around me, draping me with silk robes, wreathing my head with laurels that smoked with chimera poison burning into my scalp. The evil voice began to laugh. "Hail, the conquering hero." I awoke with a start. Grover was shaking my shoulders. "The truck shop stopped," he said. We think they're coming to check on the animals." "Hide," Annabeth hissed. She had it easy. She just put on her magic cap and disappeared. Grover and I had to dive behind feed sacks and hope we looked like turnips. The trailer doors creaked open. Sunlight and heat poured in. "Man," one of the truckers said, waving his hand in front of his ugly nose. I wish I hauled appliances. He climbed inside and poured some water from the jug onto the animal's dishes. You hot, big boy? He asked the lion, then splashed the rest of the bucket right into the lion's face. The lion roared in indignation. Yeah. Next to me, under the turnip sacks, Grover tensed. For a peace-loving herbivore, he looked downright murderous. The trucker threw an antelope a squash-looking Happy Meal bag. He smirked at the zebra. How you doing, Stripes? At least we'll be getting rid of you at this stop. You like magic shows? You're gonna love this one. They're gonna saw you in half. The zebra, wild-eyed with fear, looked straight at me. There was no sound, but as clear as day I heard it say, Free me, Lord, please. I was too stunned to react. There was a loud knock, knock, knock on the side of the trailer. The trucker inside with us yelled, What do you want, Eddie? A voice outside, must have been Eddie, shouted back, Maurice, what'd you say? What are you banging for? Knock, knock, knock. Outside, Eddie yelled, What banging? Our guy Maurice rolled his eyes and went back outside, cursing at Eddie for being an idiot. A second later, Annabeth appeared next to me. She must have done the banging to get Maurice out of the trailer. She said, This transport business can't be legal. No kidding, Grover said. He paused as if listening. The lion says these guys are animal smugglers. That's right, the zebra's voice said in my mind. We've got to free them, Grover said. He and Annabeth both looked at me, waiting for my lead. I'd heard the zebra talk, but not the lion. Why? Maybe it was another learning disability. I could only understand zebras? Then I thought, horses. What had Annabeth said about Poseidon creating horses? Was a zebra close enough to the horse? Was that way I could understand it? The zebra said, Open my cage, Lord, please. I'll be fine after that. Outside, Eddie and Maurice were still yelling at each other, but I knew they'd be coming inside to torment the animals again any minute. I grabbed Riptide and slashed the lock off the zebra's cage. The zebra burst out. It turned to me and bowed. Thank you, Lord. Grover held up his hands and said something to the zebra in goat talk, like a blessing. Just as Maurice was poking his head back inside to check out the noise, the zebra leapt over him and into the street. There was yelling and screaming and cars honking. We rushed the doors of the trailer in time to see the zebra galloping down a wide boulevard lined with hotels and casinos and neon signs. We just released a zebra in Las Vegas. Maurice and Eddie ran after it, with a few policemen running after them, shouting, Hey, you need a permit for that. Now would be a good time to leave, Annabeth said. The other animals first, Grover said. I cut the locks with my sword. Grover raised his hands and spoke the same goat blessing he'd used for the zebra. Good luck, I told the animals. The antelope and the lion burst out of their cages and went off together into the streets. Some tourists screamed. Most just backed off and took pictures, probably thinking it was some kind of stunt by one of the casinos. Will the animals be okay? I asked Grover. I mean, the desert and all. Don't worry, he said. I placed a satyr sanctuary on them. Meaning they'll reach the wild safely, he said. They'll find food, water, shade, whatever they need until they find a safe place to live. Why can't you place a blessing like that on us? I asked. It only works on wild animals. So it would only affect Percy, Annabeth reasoned. Hey, I protested. Kidding, she said. Come on, let's get out of this filthy truck. We stumbled out into the desert afternoon. It was 110 degrees, easy, and we must have looked like deep-fried vagrants, but everyone was too interested in the wild animals to pay us much attention. We passed the Monte Carlo and the MGM. We passed pyramids, a pirate ship, and the Statue of Liberty, which is a pretty small replica, but still made me homesick. I wasn't sure what we were looking for. Maybe just a place to get out of the heat for a few minutes. Maybe a sandwich and a glass of lemonade. Make a new plan for getting west. We must have taken a wrong turn because we found ourselves at the dead end, standing in front of the Lotus Hotel and Casino. The entrance was a huge neon flower, the petals lighting up and blinking. No one was going in or out, but the glittering chrome doors were open, spilling out air conditioning that smelled like flowers. Lotus blossom. Maybe. I'd never smelled one, so I wasn't sure. The doorman smiled at us. Hey kids, you look tired. Do you want to come in and sit down? I'd learned to be suspicious over the last week or so. I figured anyone might be a monster or a god. You couldn't just tell, but this guy was normal. One look at him and I could see. Besides, I was so relieved to hear somebody who sounds sympathetic that I nodded and said we'd love to come in. Inside, we took one look around and Grover said, Whoa. The whole lobby was a giant game room. The whole lobby was a giant game room, and I'm not talking about cheesy old Pac-Man games or slot machines. There was an indoor water slide sneaking around the glass elevator, which went straight up at least 40 floors. There was a climbing wall on the side of one building and an indoor bungee jumping bridge. There were virtual reality suits with working laser guns and hundreds of video games, each one the size of a widescreen TV. Basically, you name it, this place had it. There were a few other kids playing, but not that many. No waiting around for any of the games. There were waitresses and snack bars all around, serving every kind of food you could imagine. Hey, a bellhop said. At least I guessed he was a bellhop. He wore a white and yellow Hawaiian shirt with Lotus designs, shorts, and flip-flops. Welcome to the Lotus Casino. Here's your room key. I stammered. But no, he said, laughing. The bill's taken care of. No extra charges, no tips. Just go on up to the top floor, room 4001. If you need anything, like extra bubbles for the hot tub or skeet targets for the shooting range or whatever, just call the front desk. Here are your Lotus cash cards. They work in the restaurants and on all the games and rides. He handed us each a green plastic credit card. I knew there must be some mistake. Obviously, he thought we were some millionaires' kids. But I took the card and said, "How much is on here?" His eyebrows knit together. "What do you mean?" "I mean, when does it run out of cash?" He laughed. "Oh, you're making a joke. Hey, that's cool. Enjoy your stay." We took the elevator upstairs and checked out our room. It was a suite with 3 separate beds and a bar stocked with candy, sodas, and chips. A hotline to room service. Fluffy towels and waterbeds with feather pillows. A big screen television with satellite and high-speed internet. The balcony had its own hot tub, and sure enough, there was a skeet shooting machine and a shotgun, so you could launch clay pigeons right out over the Las Vegas skyline and plug them with your gun. I didn't see how that could be legal, but I thought it was pretty cool. The view over the strip and the desert was amazing, though. I doubted we would ever find time to look at the view with the room like this. "Oh, goodness," Annabeth said. "This place is sweet," Grover said. "Absolutely sweet." There were clothes in the closet, and they fit me. I frowned, thinking that this is a little strange. I threw Aries' backpack in the trash can. Wouldn't need that anymore. When we left, I could just charge a new one at the hotel store. I took a shower, which felt awesome after a week of grimy travel. I changed clothes, ate a bag of chips, drank 3 Cokes, and came out feeling better than I had in a long time. In the back of my mind, some small problems kept nagging me. I'd had a dream or something. I needed to talk to my friends. But I was sure it could wait. I came out of the bedroom and found that Annabeth and Grover had also showered and changed clothes. Grover was eating potato chips to his heart's content, while Annabeth cranked up Natural Geographic Channel. "All those stations," I told her, "and you turn on National Geographic? Are you insane? It's interesting." "I feel good," Grover said. "I love this place." Without his even realizing it, the wing sprouted out of his shoes and lifted him a foot off the ground, then back down again. So what now?" Annabeth said. "Sleep?" Grover and I looked at each other and grinned. We both held up our green plastic Lotus cash cards. "Playtime," I said. I couldn't remember the last time I'd had so much fun. I came from a relatively poor family. Our idea of a splurge was eating out at Burger King and renting a video. A 5-star Vegas hotel? Forget it. I bungee jumped the lobby 5 or 6 times, did the water slide, snowboarded the artificial ski slope, and played virtual reality laser tag and FBI shooter. I saw Grover a few times going from game to game. He really liked the reverse hunter thing, where the deer go out and shoot the rednecks. I saw Annabeth playing trivia games and other brainiac stuff. They had this huge 3D sim game where you build your own city, and you could actually see the holographic buildings rising on the display board. I didn't think much of it, but Annabeth loved it. I'm not sure when I first realized something was wrong. Probably it was when I noticed the guy standing next to me at the VR sharpshooters. He was about 13, I guess, but his clothes were weird. I thought he was some Elvis impersonator's son. He wore bell-bottom jeans and a red t-shirt with black piping, and his hair was permed and gelled like a New Jersey girl's on homecoming night. I am so sorry, I'm having a hard time. We played a game of sharpshooters together, and he said, "Groovy, man. Been here 2 weeks, and the games keep getting better and better." Groovy. Later, while we were talking, I said something was sick, and he looked at me kind of startled, as if he'd never heard the word used that way before. He said his name was Darren, but as soon as I started asking him questions, he got bored with me and started to go back to the computer screen. I said, "Hey, Darren." "What? What year is it?" He frowned at me. "In the game?" "No, in real life." He had to think about it. 1977. No, I said, getting a little scared. "Really?" "Hey, man, bad vibes. I got a game happening." After that, he totally ignored me. I started talking to people and I found it wasn't easy. They were glued to the TV screen or the video game or their food or whatever. I found this guy who told me it was 1985. Another guy told me it was 1993. They all claimed they hadn't been here very long, a few days, a few weeks at most. They didn't really know and they didn't really care. Then it occurred to me, how long had I been here? It only seemed like a couple hours, but was it? I tried to remember why we were here. We were going to Los Angeles. We were supposed to find the entrance to the underworld. My mother. For a scary second, I had trouble remembering her name. Sally. Sally Jackson. I had to find her. I had to stop Hades from causing World War III. I found Annabeth still building her city. Come on, I told her. We've got to get out of here. No response. I shook her. Annabeth? She looked up annoyed. What? We need to leave. Leave? What are you talking about? I've just got the towers. This place is a trap. She didn't respond until I shook her again. What? Listen, the underworld, our quest. Oh, come on, Percy, just a few more minutes. Annabeth, there are people here from 1977. Kids who have never aged. You check in and you stay forever. So, she asked, can you imagine a better place? I grabbed her wrist and yanked her away from the game. Hey! She screamed and hit me. But nobody else even bothered looking at us. They were too busy. I made her look directly in my eyes. I said spiders. Large, hairy spiders. That jarred her. Her vision cleared. Oh my gods, she said. How long have we... I don't know, but we've got to find Grover. We went searching and found him still playing virtual deer hunter. Grover! We both shouted. He said, die, human. Die, silly, polluting, nasty person. Grover! He turned the plastic gun on me and started clicking as if I were another image from the screen. I looked at Annabeth, and together we took Grover by the arms and dragged him away. His flying shoes sprang to life and started tugging at his legs in the other direction as he shouted, No! I just got to a new level! No! The Lotus bellhop hurried out to us. Well, now, are you ready for your platinum cards? We're leaving, I told him. Such a shame, he said, and I got the feeling that he really meant it, that we'd be breaking his heart if we went. We just added an entire new floor full of games for platinum card members. He held out the cards, and I wanted one. I knew that if I took one, I'd never leave. I'd stay here, happy forever, playing games forever, and soon I'd forget my mom, and my quest, and maybe even my own name. I'd be playing virtual rifleman with groovy disco Darren forever. Grover reached for the card, but Annabeth yanked back his arm and said, No thanks. We walked towards the door, and as we did, the smell of the food and sounds of the games seemed to get more and more inviting. I thought about our room upstairs. We could stay the night, sleep in a real bed for once. Then we brushed through the door of the Lotus Casino and ran down the sidewalk. It felt like afternoon, about the same time we'd gone into the casino, but something was wrong. The weather had completely changed. It was stormy, with heat lightning flashing out in the desert. Aries' backpack was slung over my shoulder, which was odd because I'd thrown it in the trash can in room 4001. But at the moment I had other problems to worry about. I ran to the nearest newspaper stand and read the year first. Thank the gods, it was the same year it had been when we went in. Then I noticed the date. June 20th. We had been in the Lotus Casino for 5 days. We only had 1 day left until the summer solstice. 1 day to complete our quest. Isn't that crazy? Dude, they sunk 5 days into the Lotus Casino. But, like, I'm assuming later on they're going to explain as to why. Because I know why, but I can't remember if it's in the book. So I don't want to accidentally spoil why the Lotus Casino kept them there for so long. But, wow, that's crazy. We have, like 1 more day to do so much stuff. We need to try to go to the underworld. We need to try to get Sally Jackson back if we even can. We need to stop a war. We need to get it back to Olympus. So we need to go to LA, but then also go back to New York. Percy's got a lot to do. That's crazy. But, yeah, Yeah, that's crazy. I am very excited. We're so close to the end. We have 7 more chapters, but I don't think I can read 7 more chapters today. So, that will probably be where we call it today. as always, thank you guys for lurking, for reading along with me, for listening. There will be a condensed version of this on YouTube. Follow my YouTube for that. Also, feel free to check out some of my other videos. Um, yeah, so next Thursday we will finish this up. But yeah, thank you guys for listening. Thank you for hanging out. Please continue to take care of yourself. Stay hydrated off some food. If you have vitamins, meds you gotta have. Don't forget about those. Um, Stay safe out there. It's crazy. And I love you guys very much. And I appreciate you guys taking the time to hang out with me time and time again. And I appreciate it. But yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.